All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the PM session, PM YouTube stream of the Committee of Adjustment hearing for March 31st. We were at our item number 6 for 34 Springback Avenue. I just want to check with all the committee members. We're ready? Thumbs up. All right. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. So we are going to start with item number 6. This is for 34 Springbank Avenue. And we have listed with us the agent, Christian Chan. Christian, are you with us?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Yes, I am here, Christian Chan, the agent and land use planner on behalf of the owners and applicants, Ms. Kim Chi Tran and Ryan Edwards.
Okay, thank you. Please stay with us for a moment. I will do a roll call to make sure everyone's here. Ryan Edwards, the owner, are you with us, Ryan?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Kim Chi Tran. Okay, we do not have Kim Chi Tran with us. So Kim Chi Tran, if you are listening in and if you wish to speak, please try to connect. And we have Marine, aka Tom Girels, and Linnell Forscutt.
Tom Garrels is here. My wife had a medical appointment.
Okay, so thank you, Tom. Please stay with us for a moment. We will connect. Alan Somerset. Okay, so Alan Somerset was a neighbor who had registered to speak in support. So Alan, if you're listening in and if you wish to speak, please try to connect. Laura Dixon.
I'm here.
Hi, Laura. Laura, could you please confirm your position? Are you here in opposition to the application or in support?
I'm here in support.
Okay, all right, thank you. And would you wish to speak to the application?
I'll listen to what everybody else has to say first.
First, okay, I will check in with you in case you're...
Through the chair, did you also confirm the attendance of Gordon Moore?
No, I was advised by staff that he's not there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Daniel, I am checking in, just. So Daniel Colley.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, thank you. And Daniel, are you in support or in opposition?
I'm in support.
Oh, you're in support of the application, okay. So we have quite a few supporters here and a couple of members who are in opposition. So just to confirm, Gordon Moore is not registered anymore with us? Okay, perfect. So we have an application before us for 34 Springbank Avenue, and we have, how many? 12 minor variances to permit construction of a second-story addition, and an attached garage, and a rooftop deck, and interior alterations to an existing detached dwelling. So Christian, if we can have you, would you like to present or dive right into the questions or have any comments at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a presentation, please.
Please,
So if
sure,
I can
go ahead.
have Ms. Darling pull up the concept plan A0.
Right, concept plan 80, well, A0, we'll pull it up, and you have 5 minutes.
Alpha 0, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just pull up this plan just to have this on the screen so we can look at it while I'm speaking. I've been involved with the concept development since its inception and the plans as it's proceeded through the Committee of Adjustment application. I've been working with both the designer, the city planning staff, the TRCA, and urban forestry, all of which have provided conditions that are in the AIC file to which we agree with. So I'm not going to go through each of those conditions, but we agree that the application, should it be approved, should be subject to that, to those conditions.
Okay.
So I understand that my clients have approached the community, the surrounding community, to solicit support, which they have in the form of 11 letters that have been sent in. I do understand that there are 2 letters of opposition, which I can address in reply when Mr. Gerals speaks. With regards to the variances, if I can please ask Ms. Darling to go to the site plan. So variance number one, there are a lot of variances, however, it is due to the unique nature of the site in that the front, the lot is shaped like a parallelogram. So many of the variances are, as I'll go through them, there are existing conditions that needs varying from an addition to the second floor. So generally what the proposal is to take the existing house and build a second story, which is a variance for a third story, but it's a second story. The reason being is because the basement is more than 50% above established grade, therefore it kicks in what is technically called a third story. However, we can see here that it does appear as 2 stories from the streetscape. The other portion of this application is to take the existing detached garage that appears on the front lawn, the front yard, and move it back and connect it to the existing house. So I'll run through the variances now for their justification. With respect to the side yard setback variance number 1, the variance is for the proposed replacement garage at the front yard. So it's proposed to be newly constructed and attached to the main house. See, the existing house in and of itself does not require side yard setback variances for either the east or west side. With respect to variance number 2 for the proposed maximum floor space index of 0.44, the proposed FSI, I'd like to note, includes the existing basement floor area, so it's considered as included as FSI because of that 50% above grade. So if that basement were to be below grade, we would be seeking a 0.34 FSI, so it would be compliant. With respect to variance number 3, this is the 2 stories and the 3 stories. So this does present itself like a 2-story building. Again, this variance is triggered because the basement level is more than 50% above established grade. With respect to variance number 4, that's a variance from the flat roof bylaw provision of the RD zone in the bylaw because of the rear portion of the second floor addition is there's more flat roof area than there is peaked roof area, as you can see on the roof plan or even on any of the plans here. So this regulation is triggered. But if we take a look at the elevations, we can see that the flat portion of the second story addition will be 7.32 meters, so it is 12 centimeters above the requirement for a flat roof. I'd just also like to note that we can see that the existing main floor heights will remain as is at about 9 feet, 2.75 meters. And the second floor height is being kept as low as possible at 8 foot 3 inches to keep the overall height down. With respect to variance number 5, this is an existing condition to seek a variance for 1.3 meters above for the entrance, for the main pedestrian entrance, whereas 2.1 meter is required. With respect to variance number 6, the maximum permitted building length is being sought for 24 meters. The requirement is 17. This is triggered because the garage is now attached to the dwelling. The existing dwelling is already in exceedance of that length provision.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to variance number 7, the
Christian, sorry
maximum
to interrupt you. You have 30 seconds left, so you may want to start wrapping up now.
So this is similar for the depth. It's the garage being attached to the house. With regards to variance number 8 for the deck on the second story, the actual roof deck area is 20 meters squared. So this is why we're tying it to the plans also with the peak of the roof. And variance number 9 is with respect to the side eaves that are going over the west side lot line because that is the existing eaves. And the front yard setback is actually an increase of the front yard setback because the garage is being pushed back to the building.
Okay.
And the driveway width is seeking varying because that is the width of the parking spot behind the front wall of the garage.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, for the last variance, we are seeking
Okay.
the height variance for 8786.
Okay. All right. So just some closing remarks because you've already exceeded 5 minutes. So before I go to the committee members.
Great. Yes. So in my review, it meets the 4 tests of the analysis for the decisions in the local area.
Okay.
I've spoken to city planning staff who do not object. And we have a subsequent TRCA permit application that will go along with this application that the TRCA is supporting in principle before this variance is approved.
Okay.
Should it be approved.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christian, for your time. Members of the committee, any questions for Christian at this time? Okay. I see none. Thank you. Just stay with us, Christian. I will Just checking in with Ryan and Ryan, is there anything you would like to say in addition to what Christian has already said?
No, he speaks for us, and I just want to let you know that my wife is actually here with me now. So she
Hi.
got home from work, so we're good. Yeah,
Kimchi Tran.
thank you.
Okay, so Kim Chi Tran is with you. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so Ryan and Kim, you have deferred your comments or presentation to Christian, so I will then move forward and go to Tom Garrels. Tom, you're with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Tom, and you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead and tell us what
Thank
your
you.
concerns are with the application.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and committee members, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My wife and I and our 11-year-old daughter are the owners and residents of 36 Springbank Avenue, the property adjacent on the east side of the proposed development. We moved here from the beach after a neighbor there redeveloped their home, and we had hoped by purchasing this dream home of ours, we would have escaped more development. We've lived here now for 9 years and wish to live here for many more years. You will have seen letters of support from people in the neighborhood, which was solicited based on a sanitized version of the plan and before the Committee of Adjustment sent out its notices. Also, the 3 neighbors in attendance today either live across the street or a minimum of 3 houses away. None of these are affected directly, nor personally, nor have they asked our opinion. We, however, living right next door, are deeply troubled by the application for variances for 34 Springbank Avenue. It will result in an invasion of privacy, a loss of all of our light, and potential damage to our tree. The proposed height of the property exceeds the maximum permitted height, and that will set a precedent for our neighborhood. And with several properties in our neighborhood likely to be redeveloped in the near future, we worry that this will be a problem. So please disallow the variance for maximum permitted height. We have a
So,
large and healthy.
so here's
Go ahead.
my comment to you, Gerald, and that may help us as well. If you can sort of
Yep.
speak to exactly which variances you have concerns with. We understand, that there may be other issues, but if you can sort of reflect on the variances that you have in particular concerns with, that would be great.
Okay, so this is the maximum height. I'm desperately trying to go through where that is written in the letter.
So it's variance number 4, where the permitted height is 7.2 and what's being proposed is 10 meters?
Thank you.
Okay, so that's variance number 4.
Yeah, the most important, however, is variance number 2, which is the floor space index going over the maximum allowed.
Okay,
This makes possible the addition of a giant 6.3 meters long, 1.5 meter deep, and 7 meters above grade, massive hulking extrusion hovering over our home. The extra floor space index requested is exactly the amount needed for this cantilever. That cantilever comes within 1.4 meters of our house. We stand to lose all of our light in our kitchen and living room, which are the areas of our home we spend all of our waking time.
Okay.
We will lose much of our sun on our deck and front porch. And this is all before the addition of solar panels the owners are planning for.
Okay.
Furthermore, the cantilever's window looks straight into our daughter's bedroom and down into our living room and front porch, which is an invasion of our privacy. We would like to see that cantilever removed, and we'd like you to disallow the variance for the floor space index. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Tom, for your time. Members of the committee, any questions for Tom at this time? Okay, I see none. Thank you very much. We have Alan Somerset, a neighbor. Okay, we don't have him. Laura Dixon in support. Would you like to say anything, or should we move on, Laura?
You can move on, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Daniel Colley?
I have no comments to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to come. So, I will now go back to Christian. Christian, you heard the comments made by Tom, and how would you like to address them?
Yes, if I can please ask Ms. Darling to put up on the screen the survey that was submitted in the application. So just before she puts that up, with respect to Mr. Gerhol's concern regarding trees, we do have the urban forestry condition that will require us to seek a injury or destruction permit for a tree of which there is no intent to do. This is for both private trees that are over 30 centimeters and the city trees. This is a condition that's being requested. So I think his concerns with regard to trees would be addressed by quite a substantial review that would be required by urban forestry. We can zoom in, if we can zoom into this, we could see the relationship between the two buildings. So while I can appreciate Mr. Gerhol's concerns with regards to the overlook, the proximity, and the height of the proposed cantilever, we aren't seeking any setback variances for the cantilever. So therefore, the impacts of a built form that would normally be considered aren't considered because there simply is no variance for a side yard setback to that element of the building. And in fact, what we can see on the plans here is Mr. Gerhol's built form is on the property line. So I can appreciate where my client's design complies with the bylaw setback, that there could be an impact that is produced because Mr. Gerhol's property built form is in fact on the line. However, we are compliant with that. With respect to the height that's being proposed, we are 12 centimeters over on an element on an addition to the building that is about 8 feet on top of the existing main floor ceiling. So this is probably as low as we can have the second floor over the main floor without going over it and having, for example, a 9 or a 10-foot ceiling. So I can appreciate Mr. Gerhol's concerns with privacy, but the zoning bylaw provisions, especially with respect to side yard setbacks, completely account for that.
Okay.
With regards to Mr. Gerhol's concerns with the FSI, what we're talking about here is a portion of the building, because it is popped out of the ground more than 50% in the basement, and only in that to that respect, it's not to a large degree. So this could be 20 centimeters lower, comply, not require the variance for the flat roof height. This is all because of the basement. With regards to the solar panels, I have been advised by my clients that there aren't going to be solar panels proposed on the roof. So I believe that addresses Mr. Gerhol's concerns. And with regards to precedents in the neighborhood, as part of any planning exercise, I did a review of the planning decisions within a 500-meter radius and contained that with what I consider the geographic neighborhood. And this is not setting a precedent because there are other buildings that have been approved by the C of A recently, in fact in 2019 on Kingsbury, that have a higher height that was approved, more roof deck areas, and also required side yard setbacks. So with respect to precedents, it's my opinion that there simply isn't any precedence that's being set by the variances requested. And those are my submissions with regards to Mr. Gerhol's comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Members of the committee, at this point, I would like to pass the baton to Anne McCauley. I have to step away for an urgent matter that needs my attention. Unfortunately, today it had to be, but I'm going to pass the baton to Anne. Anne, would you mind taking the lead from here and chair the rest of this matter as well as the rest of the matters until 4 o'clock when I will be back? Okay? Thank you. My apologies to all those listening and to committee members. I will step away and I will let Anne take the lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'm Deputy Chair at the moment anyways. And I'd like to proceed. We've heard from the applicant. We've heard from all the people in opposition. Are there any questions from the committee members to the applicant? Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Christian, for your presentation. It was very good. Just I'm looking at the street view at this moment, and I can see there are big trees, more than one. I think in the front yard there are 2 trees. I don't know whether it's on your property or the next door property. So just clarify on that, and I just want to know how many trees, maybe in the backyard as well, how many trees are going to be injured or removed because of this development?
Thank you, Member Said. So no trees are proposed to be removed in this proposal. There are street trees that are occurring on the city boulevard in front of the subject property that can be seen on the survey and the site plan, in which urban forestry has taken an interest and have recommended a condition that we are to protect those trees through a TPZ, tree protection zone. There is one 60-centimeter diameter tree in the front yard that will also be protected. That is not proposed to be removed. I don't think that urban forestry would even let us remove that tree, so it will be maintained. There's another tree that is just east of the subject property, east of that large front yard tree that occurs on Mr. Guerrero's property on number 36. And that is also subject to urban forestry's protection policies, in which we will seek the permit for. We do not propose to take any injury or removals of any of the trees on the subject lands or the trees that have been identified by urban forestry.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thanks.
Madam Chair, I have a question myself.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So, would you at all consider privacy screening on your rear deck to help with the intrusion and overlook?
Yes, so if the committee should approve the application, I think my clients would be okay with the condition that there'll be opaque privacy screening, but just on the west screen of the deck, so as to address the concerns of overlook to the property to the immediately to the east. I would not ask it for the entire roof platform, because the roof platform, if we go to the roof plan, we can see it is oriented towards the east of the property, and so there wouldn't be any issues of overlook to the west.
I'm just trying to understand this cantilevered addition and relay it to the actual. That's where the master bedroom would be going. I'm just trying to orient myself here.
I'm just trying to pull up the floor plans.
Like I'm just wondering, because that's the side that's adjacent to 36, is it not?
It is, yes.
Yes, and so that's what's really impacting your adjacent neighbor that you heard today the most. And I'm just looking at your elevations and everything. Like I'm just trying to understand what that bump out really is. And, you know, if you could just line it up with the rest of the house, it wouldn't be as impactful. But I'm seeing it would make that bedroom basically useless, is what I'm seeing here.
Yes, and in fact, normally I would share a similar concern. However, in my review, when we're looking at the side yard setbacks, this doesn't infringe on any of the side yard setback requirements in the bylaw, right? And if we're talking about this too, if the basement were about 10 centimeters lower, this variance wouldn't even be required, both for the FSI or the flat roof.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. And any other questions? I have a question. Can you bring up the roof drawing? I have a bit of concern as to how the platform on the roof will impact the rest of the roof. If you could speak to that.
So I'm kind of amiss as to what the question would be, Member Macaulay. The roof.
Maybe I can clarify. I understand that the rear roof is flat.
Yes.
And that you are proposing that there be a roof deck for a portion of that.
That is correct.
I guess my concern is that a portion over time could end up being all the way to the end of the roof.
Yeah.
If you would address that.
So the reason why city planning in their staff report, and I think this addresses that, is to tie should it be approved, is the approval is tied to the plans in that this also secures that this deck will be no larger than the deck as it appears on the plans. So as this proceeds through to permit approval at the City Buildings Department and through their inspections process, they will ensure that the deck that is shown on these plans will be the deck that is constructed and no larger.
My concern is mirrors what Member Macaulay had said, because yes, that's fair for while this homeowner lives there, but and they applied for their permits to construct it now, but it doesn't mean in time they don't continue to add to it without a permit, right? Because it
Yes,
would be so
and
easily done.
And just to add to that too, because this deck is over 2 feet above grade, any addition to the deck will require a building permit through the OBC process. So if
But it doesn't
anybody were,
necessarily mean that that will happen, is all I'm
yes, but that's that's prejudicing my clients for something that could happen in the future. That's not going to happen now. So I believe that the security that is provided in order for that deck not to be expanded is contained in the condition that is recommended by staff, as well as that if any deck expansion occurs in the future, it would be a bylaw infraction, and municipal licensing standards and bylaw enforcement can be called should that deck be built bigger in the future. And on top of that, it will
We
require
know,
a
we
building
understand that. We understand that.
permit, right?
It doesn't necessarily change how we feel about it, though.
We understand human nature are a bit. Are there any other questions of the committee? No? Is the committee then in a position to take this into the committee deliberation?
Madam Chairman,
Yes?
this is Tom Garrels. I fear that my main concern, which is the disappearance of our light and sun exposure into our living room and kitchen, has not been addressed.
Through the chair, the
Okay, we
deliberate.
understand that, but your opportunity to raise that with us was when you were making your presentation. So thank you very much. If there's no further questions from the committee, what is the wish of the committee?
I would like to deliberate amongst ourselves, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I heard that Secretary Treasurer Colin had piped in. Was there something you wanted to add, Mr. Treasurer?
No, just that the just echoing what the chair had mentioned is that the time for the member of the public to speak had come and gone. So that was it.
So of all of the variances before us today, guys, I take the most issue with the number of stories and the total height of the dwelling, as well as the platform. I mean, all three of them are kind of related. Without the third story and without the height, you wouldn't have the platform. And I know that, you know, this applicant isn't intending on expanding that deck, but I don't feel it's necessarily appropriate, especially when you have such a generous rear yard anyways, to necessarily require a rooftop deck, when you could have a deck at grade that doesn't impact any of your adjacent neighbors. That being said, some of the other variances I don't take issue with. The overall floor space would be dealt with if they did bring down the height and the number of stories. Same with the driveway width and the front yard setback, all of those things, I don't have as much of a concern. But in general, I feel like this is a little bit of an overdevelopment of the lot in terms of some of the variances that are before us today. And I know we're not to introduce any major revisions to the application. So I would feel like maybe it's more appropriate to defer this application to allow more consultation with the direct neighbor, number 36, to see if we can scale down some of these variances to be a little bit more accepting and in keeping of what we see in this community.
Do I have any other comments from the committee members? Mr. McKay? You need to mute yourself, unmute.
Sorry, I got that. Thanks. Yeah, no, my only concern is when we're asked for 12 variances to the zoning bylaw provisions, that at some point you cross the line in terms of what is a minor or not. So, yeah, I don't feel that I can support myself the particular application before us. So, the comment I wanted to make.
Thank
Just
you.
so further to Gary's comment, like while I would feel comfortable supporting some of the variances, I almost feel like it's kind of a moot point because the ones that I'm not comfortable with would greatly alter the application. And, you know, I think it's only fair. It's either we refuse it in its entirety or we defer it. So, I mean, I look to my other committee members in terms of how you guys feel about the application. Mohammed, you've been quite quiet.
It's your turn.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I have a different opinion this time because I was looking at, although the number of variances is quite large as far as the number is concerned, keeping in view the impact or overall, I just see the variance number 3, yes, which is about the number of stories, and variance number 4, which is about the building height. But as I was listening to the applicant, they have given some reasons for that because of the lot, the structure, I mean the lot's shape is concerned, or because 50% of the basement is already upper ground, so that make it 3 stories. So variance number 3 is justified, and yes, variance number 4, the height could be a consideration, but again, I think still I am willing to support this variance, and I can consider these variances minor.
How about the deck, Mohammed? How do you feel about the deck?
For deck, I don't see any issue towards that. And I was looking at the community planning report as well, because anyhow we are putting the conditions there, and we will restrain all the sites development, whether it's a building length or building depth or deck. All these things are going to be tied up with plan number 1 and plan number 2. So that covers, and that gives me a safe margin on that.
It's just sort of human nature and the ability to easily expand that deck without, like, yes, a building permit would be required, but I know we've seen so many before us where somebody has constructed something illegally and we've never made them tear it down. We've just given them relief after the fact. And I don't want to see that happen here in a couple of years. And we should just resist the urge of giving them that temptation by allowing this deck in the first place. In my eyes, I mean, like we've seen some pretty bad atrocities and we've never made them tear it down. So I just feel like I'm going to be coming back to this 2 years from now, and I'm going to just feel regret that have prevented the issue from happening in the first place. Okay, well, I think I know where I stand. I do support some of the variances. However, I don't support 3 and 4, which would affect 2. So I'm not prepared to support this application as it stands today, and I would like to see some revisions made to it. I mean, I'm prepared to put forward a motion, but it's going to be up to, I suppose, Gary on whether or not it carries. But so given that I feel that there are true concerns in terms of the overall scale of this house, like I truly feel that it is a little bit oversized for the configuration of the lot. And for that, I don't think that it's minor in nature. Like there's a significant number of variances here, and while some of them are numerically small, some of them are not. And I think altogether as a totality, it results in something that isn't keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw, and therefore fails one of the 4 tests. And if that's the case, it should not be passed. So in my opinion, I would like to defer this application.
Okay, thank you, Amy. You're asking or recommending a deferral of this application rather than a refusal. And as I understand it, you're asking for a deferral so that the applicant can come back and take a look at some of those items that we have that you have concern with.
Correct.
Do I have a seconder? Mr. McKay.
So just a comment, Madam Chair. I would be in favor of a deferral. I'm prepared to go with that route if that's what the panel decides.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Mr. Mohammed?
through the chair, through the chair.
If it is a deferral, I think we have to go back to the applicant and we seek their opinion too, because are they willing to take the deferral or should they want a final decision at this point?
Okay, thank you.
Through,
Staff had a comment there.
yes, through the chair. I think there needs to be, if the committee members have finished their deliberations, then I think you need to take it to a vote. And I think when you are taking it to a vote, the motion needs to be, the decision needs to be fairly clear in terms of what the next steps are. If it is deferral, it needs to be, you need to state what your deferral, specifically state what the reason for the deferral is and what the next step is.
Understood, Mr. Secretary Treasurer. So I'll put forward a more detailed motion. I recommend a deferral of this application, subject to the applicant revising their applications to possibly address some of the height variance 4 to be a little bit more in keeping of the overall height requirement, which is 7.2, which may address variance number 3 and then alter variance number 2. I also would like the application to consider the removal of the rooftop deck, and then for them to have further discussions with their immediate neighbor, number 36 Springbank Avenue.
So through the chair, just to be clear, in terms of the removal of the rooftop deck, that that's in relation to variance number 8, correct?
Yes, variance
Okay.
number 8.
Okay.
The motion is to defer the application and ask the applicant to consider items number 2, items number 3, items number 4, and items number 8.
Correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. McKay is the seconder. All those in support? Thank you. That matter carries. Thank you very much. Christian, when you come back, you would have to revise your application and bring it back. And for the residents, if the application is brought back to committee, there would be a new notice sent out to you. Okay. Thank you very much.
I understand, however, Madam Chair, may I add, is I don't understand the nature of the deferral, because usually it would be to satisfy the planning concerns that are raised by city planning. And I understand, so I'm just wondering who I'm negotiating with, and am I negotiating with the COA members on what the design should be? Do I negotiate with the neighbors?
Refusal? Would you prefer a refusal?
That's not, respectfully, Madam Chair, that's not what I'm asking here.
Okay, I think if we can address the items that were of concern, there's certain parts of these variances that were not of concern. We would like to see you come back with changes to address those concerns and the specific concerns of your neighbor to east or west. Those applications will, of course, come back through committee play, and they may still want to put some conditions on it, but the choice you have, really, and the choice that we are considering is, should the application be refused? Should the application be approved in part? Or should the application be deferred and that is our decision, is to defer it to allow you time to make some changes and then bring the application back.
Thank you. As a former member of the committee, I'm familiar with that, and thank you for your comments.
Okay. Thank you, members. I believe we are on the next application.
Item 7, through the chair. It's item 7 is the next application.
Sorry, I think it's application.
45 Cree.
I think we just dealt with 6 and we would move to 7 Cree Avenue.
Oh, we're on to 7. Sorry. Okay, Cree Avenue. And we have lady as the agent, and we have Mayran Hydrate Mary. Sorry, Mayhan Hydrate. I know I'm not. Are you in this here?
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Mehran Haydari, 1090 Don Mills Road, Unit 506 from PMP Design Group. I'm designer and representing the behalf of the owner.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to check that we have a couple of people in opposition. Mary, are you there?
Through the chair, your audio, your thank you.
I'm here.
Thank you. Rick Levinson, are you there? Are we having some problems?
Through the chair, Rick is not with us right now.
Sign in again. Okay. Tanya. Tanya.
Yes, I am here.
Pronounce again for me, please. Tanya, I believe you're there.
Yeah, it's Tanya Baksh. Now,
and
sorry.
Madam Chair,
Rick
we're having difficulties hearing you. Madam Chair, we're having difficulties hearing you. You're breaking up substantially.
Thank you. I need to speak a little clearer right to the mic here. Okay, is Alan Burt here?
And I will be speaking for Mr. Levinson. He's a chiropractor and he had patients downtown afternoon. So he had asked me to speak for him in his place.
Can you, excuse me, can you, through the chair, can you confirm the name and address of the person speaking on behalf of Mr. Levinson, please?
Yes, my address is 50 Sunny Point Crescent. And I am a director with the Incorporated Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association.
Okay. You and Tanya are both part of that community association, and I believe are both going to be speaking in opposition, correct? All right, let's proceed. Mr. Mayran, do you wish to make a presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. So I want to bring the neighborhood's consideration that we're going to have the development in this property, regardless of the Committee of Adjustment application. The new house can build this in this location. And if you look at the application, we don't have the front yard setback, we don't have the rear yard setback, we don't have the side yard setback in an immediate neighbor on the west. So we just have the side yard variances on the east part that is facing the street, and there is no negative impact for this application. And the only thing that may have the attention of the neighborhood is the height, that variance number 3, and I want to remove the variance number 3 about the building height. And the rest of the variances is minor, and there is no negative impact. And actually, I want to have the respect to the neighborhood about everything that they may have concern. But all the opposition that we have on the system, on the submission, is all because of the development. It's not a specific variances that they may have concern or anything. So for this reason, I want to have the neighborhood, because the city is live, and we need to have the live city, and the development is one of the part of the interaction that the developer is doing in the city. And any new house in this neighborhood affecting the neighborhood's community and the beauty of the street and the perspective. For example, if you look at the property, we have the garage in the back, and this garage gonna be removed, and instead we have the nice entrance of the building that is very far from the immediate neighbors, and there is no flanking street entrance for the other property, and this is a corner lot. In the corner lot, we have less impact for the development, and we respect the neighbors, but I try to make something that is matched with the community and respecting about the trees and everything. So I don't want to talk more. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. And did I hear correctly that you wish to delete variance number 3 dealing with the building height?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions of the members of the applicant? I can't see anyone. Not seeing any? Okay. Mary Connolly?
Madam Chairman, Tanya Baksh is going to speak first.
Okay. You want to do Tanya, then Mary, and then Alan? Is that your desire?
Please.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon again, committee members. My name is Tanya Baksh, and I currently reside with my family at 214 Oak Ridge Drive. We have lived at our residence for over 20 years. I am also a member of the Cliffcrest, Scarborough Village, Southwest Residents Association Development and Planning Committee. We are an incorporated residents association and registered with the City of Toronto. Madam Chair, we have organized us 3 speakers from our community to speak to address our community concerns and also raise any new information that has come to light since we submitted our letters and petition. As you've seen with our petition letter, there are 47 individual residents who have signed our petition of objection to this proposal. The letter includes residents from adjoining streets. However, most of the names on the petition, more than 20, are from the immediate neighborhood. I would like to reiterate our community is exhausted with overdevelopment. We will not stand idle any longer and will not stay quiet about development which removes healthy tree canopy, removes privacy, and removes access to the elements which make our neighborhood and our homes so desirable. The community believes that this house is not in keeping with the prevailing heights, massing, scale, and density of houses in our neighborhood, as per policy 4.1.5C. At no time did the owner nor the design group approach any of the area residents to discuss their plans for this house until this week, after the opposition petition was posted on the Application Information Center. On Monday, I had the opportunity to speak to the owners as they were contacting those on the opposition petition letter trying to gain our support. The lack of communication until this week did not allow for the community to express our thoughts and concerns and come to a collaborative solution as neighbors. Now for the variances. I will be focusing on variance 1. Can you please pull up the frontal overlay attachment number 1 in our Residents Association letter of objection? The data used in this plot was derived from the city database. The data was updated following a cruise of the street to identify new builds. Updates were obtained from myproperty.ca, COA, and TLAB hearing details, as well as the neighbors. Therefore, it is as accurate as reasonably possible. Variance number 1, gross floor area. Our neighborhood mainly consists of bungalows to 1.5 to 2-story homes with spacious front, back, and side setbacks. As you can see from the street view overlay, that this proposed development is well out of range of the other homes in the immediate neighborhood. The proposed development is 39.8 or 110.98 meters squared larger than the allowable floor area and will create several challenges for the adjacent neighbors. Can you please pull up attachment number 2, the allowable GFA and FSI charts from our letter of objection? Please note that in these charts, a superseded version of the zoning notice was used and the data was slightly higher, but we have corrected it using the updated data and it still represents an oversized build for our area. As you can see from the charts, this is an egregious proposed development and is not in keeping with the character of our neighborhood. There is an inconsistency with the zoning and public notices for 45 Cree regarding the zoning FSI of 0.5 and the allowed GFA based on the lot area. While nominally the property is zoned with an FSI of 0.5 based on the lot area of 696.64 meters squared, the maximum allowed with this lot area is 279, not 348.32 meters squared, according to exception 900.3.10, 1462. This results in an effective zoned FSI of 0.4. The requested FSI is therefore going from 0.4 to 0.56, a totally egregious request. The gross floor area for the immediate context neighborhood ranges from 81.7 meters squared at 41 Cree to 114 meters squared at 114 Cree. The 389.98 meters squared proposed is too large and well out of the range of these and not in keeping with the prevailing character of the neighborhood. The proposal accommodates excessive floor area of the interior at the expense of the neighbors. There are 11 new builds on Cree Avenue that have been completed, that have completed property enhancements, but they are well within the generous guidelines of the city zoning codes. The proposed massing fails to meet the intent and the purpose of the official plan. I join our neighbors in requesting that you refuse this application. Thank you for the opportunity to address the community. I would now like to turn it over to Mary Connolly, who will focus on some of the other variances.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm pleased to hear that your association is incorporated. That shows a level of interest, but it's very important if any of these items are referred to TLAB. So, members, are there any questions for Tanya? Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Tanya, for your elaboration on various variances. I understand you mainly talked about variance number 1 and 2, which is GFA and the building height. As you heard, the applicant is willing to reduce the building height or take away the variance number 2. Does it mitigate the issue if there is no variance number 3 is not there, the height factor?
Actually, my focus was solely on variance number 1, which was the floor space area. Mary is actually going to be covering 2 and 3. So, I mean, if 3 has been removed, obviously, you know, that's a great thing for us and stuff. But yes, my focus was only on the GFA. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mary, I believe you are next.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Mary Connolly, and I currently reside at 43 Cree Avenue, which is right beside this proposed development. I've lived in this residence for 19 years. At no time did the owner of this property nor the design group contact me to discuss their hopes for this development. This development will significantly impact my enjoyment of my privacy and enjoyment of natural light due to the excessively large nature of this proposed residence. Now to the variances. I'll be focusing on variances 2 to 5, but I'll remove 3. Can you please pull up attachment number 3, view from the west of proposed development included in our Residents Association letter of objection? Variance 2. The applicant's proposal will have an impact to the existing common street wall and the typical side yard setbacks. This proposal would have a 53% smaller than permitted side yard setback from the lot line. The side yard setbacks associated with an abutting street associated with Cree Avenue have an average of 5.94 meters. This is greater than the minimum required of 4.5 meters. 4.5 meters for a side yard setback. The proposed house will be located too close to the boulevard line on Lowell Avenue. This is not in keeping with the generous setbacks of the neighborhood. Permitted height, I'll omit for the moment. Can you please pull up attachment number 4, view from east of proposed development? The applicant's proposal is requesting a building length of 15% or 2.56 meters longer than the permitted maximum building length. All that I will look at is a long brick wall beside me, and it will also impact one mature tree right on the property line. Additionally, the balcony on the back of the house, while it is within the guidelines of 4 meters squared, will take away from the enjoyment of my backyard privacy. This proposed development does not fit into the prevailing character of this neighborhood and the fabric of our community. This development is not the type of improvement our neighborhood should be subjected to. There have been several developments through the neighborhood which have been built with successful results and are within the generous zoning laws and also maintain the official plan. I join our neighbors in requesting that you refuse this application. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I would now like to turn it over to Alan Burt, who will address some of the other variances.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Are there any questions for Mary? Hearing none. None? Okay. Can we go on? Alan, would you please proceed?
Yes, good afternoon, committee members. As I've already introduced myself, I'm speaking on behalf of Rick Livingston, who resides at 37 Cree Avenue, and he has lived there for 7 years. Could you please pull up attachment number 4 from the east of proposed development from the Residents Association letter of objection? Now, I will be speaking to variances 6 and 7. These two variances are somewhat rare, and I'm speaking to these since I drew the short straw. Variance number 6, the side yard setback. This side yard platform will encroach 2.37 meters into the required 4.5 meter side yard setback, which is 63% more than the allowed maximum 1.5 meters. Just make sure. Okay, and number 7, the proposed side. Now, I must state that all of these variances, and including these two, can be tied back to the sheer size of the variance number 1 on the gross floor area. The east wall is an expression of the egregious GFA, which in turn has pushed the porch and the steps out, and the house is too wide. This is totally unique. This is a totally unique situation on this portion of Cree Avenue, where no other home is this size. So the side yard setbacks associated with an abutting street associated with Cree Avenue have an average of 5.94 meters. I basically took the 12 homes at the intersection that's right here, and then the one to the east and the one to the west. This is greater than the minimum required of 4.5 meters for a side yard setback. that the proposed house will be located too close to the boulevard line on Lowell Avenue. It is out of character with the immediate neighborhood, and it fails to meet the intent and purposes of the official plan, policy 4.1.5, subsection C. And as to the question on how we would respond to the removal of variance number 3, we would have to see the impact on the other variances to be able to ascertain what our response would be. Without that kind of information, we really can't respond in a meaningful way.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Any questions for Alan from the committee members? No? Okay. Mihan, do you want to address the items of the community? It's your opportunity for a rebuttal.
Drawing A1, could you please bring up the drawing A1, the site plan? With the respect of the neighbor's comment, so I want to address wife and one.
Through the chair, can you please ask the applicant to speak up? We can. It's, thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, if you could speak up a little, it would be helpful.
Yes.
And more directly.
Yeah. Okay, would you please bring up the drawing A1, the site plan? I want to talk in the site plan with the neighbors.
You want our staff to bring up the site plan?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So you're welcome. So first, I want to say sorry to neighbors because we didn't approach neighbors because I believe that this development is not affecting the neighborhood community and the negative impact of the building, the neighbors. So about the opposition number 1, Mrs. Tania. So you know what? We have the no setback variances over there. We don't have the lot coverage. We don't have the site setback on the number 43. Number 43, Mary talked about the site yard setback. We don't have site setback. In the east side, the number 43, the setback that we may have is a 3 meter, but 3 foot. But what we have is a 4 foot. It's after the garage. If you see the garage portion that we don't have any window, is the 3 foot, but after that we have 4 feet is generous more than the bylaw requirement. On the other hand, if you look at the side plan again, the side yard setback for the street part, the blanking street. So we have 6 meters from the porch to the curve of the street, and there is no negative impact. There is no, and we don't have the variance for the landscaping. You know what? The coverage of this building, we are allowed to have the 33% lot coverage, but we are less than 31%. I know the neighborhood has concern about the development, but to be honest, I try to make everybody happy about this development, and I removed the variance of the height because if they show the perspective of my drawing and comparison with their house and the neighbor, yes, any house that is gonna build in this neighborhood is a 2-story, and I don't have the 2-story at top of the garage. And the main floor, if you look at it, the main floor, we just have 3 steps to the main floor, and everything is flat. And we are sitting is like a cozy house, and we are not big more than the bylaw. The bylaw is 33%. We are less than this 33%. And again, what I explained, we have the removing the garage in the back is one of the comments for the planning department is removing garage in the back, and is exactly what this neighborhoods should be happy about these changes that we made. We don't have the bad shaped garage in the back, and instead we have the porch in the front. You know, the porch in the front is the character of the building. I'm sure this character of the building is staying there for the long time, and everybody enjoying when they're passing and see this development. And if we remove the porch, we still have the door and entrance. There is no big difference between having this porch and the other things that Mary asked about the privacy, about the balcony. Again, we don't have any variance about the balcony in the back that facing to number 43 and affecting we just have the porch as a less than 1 meter height to the grade in the backyard. And there is nothing that, but I can respect more and I can ask the committee to add the privacy screen on the deck beside the gate, beside the deck for number 43 satisfaction. And so I think I address all the concern of the opposition, and I'm more than happy if I can answer anything. And I want to bring the committee attention to the point that the original submission that I have to the committee, we had the more depth and we had different variances, but in the back and forth with the staff, we changed the drawing. We moved the building to the front. You know, my clients wanted to keep the tree on the driveway that you can see right now, but because of the variance of the depth, that was more than the expectation of the staff, we forced to bring the building closer to the property line on the Cree Avenue and is affected to removing the tree on the driveway. And so it was worse than this decision was made by the staff, and I respect the staff comments, and I changed the drawing and I moved to the front, the building. And it means...
Okay, can I ask you to sum up, please?
Yes, yes. It means I totally understand the neighbors worried about the development, but I hope they can understand. I try to make the best application, best development that is fit with the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members. Do I have any comments from the committee?
Through you, Madam Chair, generally speaking, flankage yards are pretty generous because it's supposed to provide a buffer, a transition from the street where there's moving vehicles, etc. I understand it's not too large of a deviance into, like, it still provides a separation, and there's still a boulevard and such to separate from Springbank to the house, and I appreciate that. But it is something, when I had taken a look at the context of the community, that we don't really see surrounding the site. Like, we do see a fairly consistent flankage yard going up and down Springbank as well as other neighboring streets. The other variances, some of them similar to the application before this one. Some of them I find acceptable, and some of them are a little bit large. But for the most part, the one that I take the most issue with is really the flankage yard setback, as well as the maximum permitted building length is quite large. That being said, I kind of sit on the fence here, and I know that in the past we have done things that are similar, but I just want to ensure that we're not creating anything that's going to destabilize the neighborhood.
I had noticed that Mr. Mohammed had a comment. Perhaps we can go to him and then come back. Amy, if you have any additional comments here.
Nope, that's all. That's just my thoughts when I had reviewed the materials.
Mohammed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to comment on the building length. Of course, it's 17 meter. Yes, we hear the community, especially about the GFA, which make this building a little bit bigger than as far as the remaining other buildings in the same area. So it's not apparently it's not fitting into the characteristic of the street, which is one of the issue. I appreciate variance number 3 has been removed since we are in committee. Otherwise, I was going to ask the applicant how it is going to impact the other variances or whether there is no impact at all on that. But Mehran, for Mehran, I have one comment that it's not a good thing that the applicant have never consulted the neighbors before making planning for this development. So this would have been a much appreciated if there have been a consultation with the neighbors, even with the immediate neighbors or even at the other. That part is missing. I don't know at this point how the applicant Mehran is feeling about having a consultation with the community, with the neighbors. That would be a good thing. I wish that would have happened, and that would have made my job simple to reach to a decision.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mohammed. You'll note I'm addressing each one of you half the time with your first names and half the time with your last names, and struggling over some of these names, so please bear with me. Unfortunately, this matter is now in committee's hands, and so we can't ask the applicant if he would be willing to consider a deferral to consult with the neighbors. I agree that a lot of the applications that we receive have included consultation with the neighbors and have improved the application. However, that hasn't occurred, and we do have the objections. Although he has agreed to delete the one variance with height. Do I have a motion from the committee? Mohammed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to move the motion for deferral of this application. And the reason is that I want to give more time to the applicant to revise the plan, as he said, variance number 3 is going to be removed. And second, to give them a chance to have a consultation with the neighbors and to reach to a consensus, or at least to mitigate some of the issues. So with that background, I will move the motion for deferral of this application.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Gary? Are you just seconding it? You need to unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I had a little technical problem here. But for the reasons given by Member Saeed, yes, I support the motion to defer this particular item.
Okay. And so I would assume that this is a deferral sine die for the applicant to meet with the community and bring the application back after that has occurred. Is that correct? I'm calling for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. Okay, Mr. Mohammed, you have heard the decision of the committee. The application is deferred with the recommendation that you consult with the neighbors and bring us a revised application. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, we are moving on. In to item number 10, 263 Blantire Avenue. Item number 10, 263 Blantire Avenue. We have Shahid Navigat, sorry, number 10. Number 10, the agent is Graham Barrett. Are you here, Graham?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let me go through the rest of this. We have 4 neighbors in opposition who have signed in. Michael Widowson, are you in attendance?
I am in attendance. Can you hear me?
Yeah. The next person is Joe and Deborah Murphy.
Hi, we
Are
are
you
here.
both going to speak or just one of you?
Just me, just Deborah.
Okay. And then we have Marie Campbell. Marie, are you there?
Through the chair, Marie is not with us.
Okay. And Vicki Gleiserman. Vicki, are you there?
Through the chair, Vicky is not with us.
All right. I will proceed with this application, and if staff could let me know whether either Marie or Vicky show up after we've heard from the other speakers, that would be helpful. So, Graham, I have here your application for variances. I don't believe there are any conditions of approval from any of the committees. So, Graham, would you like to proceed to address the committee, please?
Sure, gladly. I had sent in a cover letter and some supporting material to be put up on screen. I never quite received confirmation that was received, but that was before the deadline, so hopefully that can be popped up on screen for me. But as you said, my name is Graham Barrett. I'm the agent for the owner of 263 Blantire Avenue. Here to propose 3 minor variances from the zoning bylaw in order to permit construction of what is essentially a new development, new dwelling through extensive renovations. Building permit has already been issued for an addition on this site, which required no variances from the zoning bylaw. If you take a look, well, actually, that's another set of plans, disregard. This would have resulted in a modern home of the same height as that which is being proposed today, but with a partially sloped roof. The original plans should have been up on the AIC, but they appear to have been taken down. So the owner's plan was to start construction on this first phase while we navigate the minor variance process, then build additions, if approved, to complete the home as envisioned, which included squaring off the roof, adding a rear addition, and so on. We became aware of some concerns from planning staff and neighbors and decided to make some reductions to the plans to address these concerns. And the owner decided to stop work on this first phase and wait until everything was settled at this meeting before moving forward. Admittedly, approaching a renovation project in this phased method can be convoluted and difficult to understand for people, but this is the situation we find ourselves in. The proposal before you today represents a compromise between the owners and planning staff. We've worked closely with them to come up with something acceptable. So the lot coverage has been reduced from 44.52% to 38.96%. Floor space index has been reduced from 0.81 times the area of the lot to 0.7 times the area of the lot. And a variance for building length has been removed altogether. A variance for height of front and rear main walls is still required to accommodate the flat roof design, although this home complies with the overall height maximum of 9 meters. And as I mentioned, we've been advised that planning staff's concerns have been addressed, and we do appreciate their input along the way. If you can skip ahead in those slides, I've included a couple of spreadsheets outlining past approvals in the immediate area. So the first one is for floor space index. It's a 2-page spreadsheet for floor space index approvals within 500 meters. The original proposal is the top one in yellow. This has been modified, and the new one is lower down in yellow. You can see that we've moved quite far down the list of approvals within the area. The original proposal, well, it would have been fairly large, still wouldn't have been at a step with other approvals nearby. And This results in this variance of 0.6 to 0.7 results in a difference of just 33.01 square meters, or approximately 355 square feet. The same is true for lot coverage. The second spreadsheet there is for lot coverage approvals in the area. Much greater variances have been approved, even greater than the original proposal before it was reduced. But again, we fall quite far down the list compared to the original. So 39 down to 33. The next two pages of my presentation show the site plans, the original and the revised. So you can see there's been a substantial reduction in the footprint of this home. Just to illustrate that, the next page is a photo of the site as currently existing, with ground floor walls remaining to be used in the new construction. And the following pictures on the next several pages are of other newer homes in the immediate area, and they help to illustrate this more contemporary style will fit in well with the prevailing and changing character of this area. This may be the first newer modern style home on this small stretch of Blantire, and it can be difficult being the first, but this is by no means the first house in this style with variances for floor area, lot coverage, etc. in the area. And as such, I'm of the opinion this proposal is indeed sensitive, gradual, and fits the immediate neighborhood. An arborist report has been completed. 4 trees have been inventoried, none of which require removal or injury. There will be no construction within any of the required tree protection zones. We have no conditions from urban forestry. I am aware of the letters of opposition that have been sent in by several neighbors, and I'm a little disappointed that none of them, other than the immediate neighbor Joe, reached out to me personally. I made an effort to drop letters in a dozen mailboxes, providing a brief explanation as to what is being proposed here in the revision, and offering to chat if there are any questions or concerns. It would seem that most of the neighbors have issues with construction, demolition, and the goings-on of the past year. And I unfortunately can't speak to any of that, as I was brought on more recently to handle the minor variance process and that process alone. I would certainly hope that the owner and builder would complete this project professionally and minimize the inconvenience to their neighbors. But again, I'm only here to discuss the proposed minor variances, which, as reduced, are quite minor in nature and in line with other approvals in the area. This proposal is suitable for the development and use of the land. It is in keeping with the changing character of this neighborhood. It's very much in transition. This proposal is also in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw, as performance standards are not being exceeded in an unreasonable fashion. The proposal is in keeping with the official plan, as a dwelling such as this is suitable for the neighborhood's land use designation, and planning staff seem to agree. So this will be a bit of a departure for this site in a small stretch of Blantire Avenue, but not for the area. And I would not be surprised in the slightest to see more homes on this block before this committee in the near future, when the owners either decide to update their properties or sell to new owners. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Before I go to the other committee members, can you just reiterate the position with regard to trees? I see that there is a tree on the public boulevard. I believe you were going to be saving that. Did you say there are 4 other trees in the area, or did I mishear?
Yes, we do have an arborist report that's been completed by Davy Resource Group. I do have a tree plan. There are 4 trees inventoried by them, all of which can be protected and will be protected during this construction. No trees will be injured or removed, hence the lack of a forestry condition.
Okay, and has that forestry report been shared with the forestry department?
Well, there's no need to apply for a permit to injure or destroy. So at this point, I'm going to say no, but I would happily share it with forestry or the committee or anybody who'd like to see it.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have of the applicant. Committee members, do you have any questions? Seeing none. Okay. Michael Whittleson, would you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Chair. Hello, my name is Michael Widdowson, and I'm speaking today on behalf of my mother, who is the owner of 265 Blantire Avenue, directly to the north. We would like to strongly oppose the variances under consideration. With the activity the applicant has undertaken with their existing permits, a pattern has emerged in which numerous bylaws have been ignored or not respected and continue to be as evidenced in the various letters of submission, along with a new major issue confirmed this week. Right-of-way has required and will continue to be rescinded indefinitely. This pattern is continuing based on the proposed development and the variances requested. There has been a complete breakdown of communication with the applicant's agents, and we only discovered who the title owner was upon review of their application. Our comments from our perspective were not welcomed, argued, and have been ignored. Credibility of the application is certainly in question. All comparisons that Mr. Barrett has just provided are not comparable, as the majority are subject to a different zoning code and the unique geographic nature of the surrounding streets. The letters provided by the agents, as he mentioned, were confusing, incoherent, and not understandable, which is why there was no response from the surrounding neighbors, which is a neighborhood with significant elderly population. As described in the letter submitted, material errors were identified with regards to the alignment of the existing curb cuts and parking pads. In addition, a 50-foot tree that divides the property line between 263 and 265 Blantire is absent from the application. The tree has been reported to Forestry Services for investigation of damage. The errors are so significant that it would no doubt distort and skew the assessment and interpretation of the proposal, most notably with regards to reviews undertaken by Transportation Services and Urban Forestry. We cannot accept the proposal of what appears to be a tree on our appears to be a proposed tree on the existing parking pad. The fence line as prescribed under the tree protection bylaws will now need to be reevaluated, since a portion of the fence was removed for the already completed shoring for the proposed development without a tree protection zone. This also proves the information submitted by the applicant is untrue as per the signed declaration and the sworn affidavit as posted on the city website. This alone should immediately disqualify the application. With regards to the actual build, the official plan, in accordance with the official plan, the description that I would describe to this proposal is a precedent-setting overbuild compromising the community safety zone it resides in, with implications that will reverberate for years to come if approved after they sell, as the agent has just indicated it is for profit making. The proposal polarizes and takes away from the community and fails to contribute. In accordance with the official plan, development in the established neighborhoods will respect and reinforce the existing physical character of each geographic neighborhood, including in particular to this proposal: prevailing size and configuration of lots, prevailing heights, massing scale, density, etc., prevailing location, design, elevations relative to the grade or driveways and garages, prevailing patterns of rear side yard setbacks, and landscaped open space. Based on the design of the proposal and the three variances under consideration, the development would certainly undermine the official plan. The height can only be considered precedent-setting, far taller than any other house in the community, and precedent-setting sight lines at each floor level. A precedent-setting floor space which will further compromise the sensitive environment and prevailing flooding issues that are already present. There is not one house close in comparable size within the RS zoning code, nor does any other build encroach on the existing side lot lines to utilize the lot coverage in such a manner. The inclusion of a window well on the north side will cause maintenance issues, removal of a parking spot, and the requirement to immediately surround the unsafe hole with a large safety fence. There are numerous design tricks and illusions integrated plans into the plans that are obfuscating the true impact to the community and not respecting the intention of the application, regulations, and bylaws. This results in a far larger impact than currently realized. I would also argue additional features of this design do not meet the existing bylaws, including but not limited to the multiple tiered decking at the rear of the property, creating the look and feel of a 20-meter home, eliminating any privacy. We disagree in the interpretation that this is a two-story house in accordance with the definition, how the applicant can respect Municipal Chapter 918 and the application of the tree protection bylaws if the variances are approved. In conclusion, the impact to the approval of the variances will result in a detrimental impact to the peace and enjoyment of my mother's property. The variances will result in continuous conflict well into the future and establish a precedent that does not align with the official plan or city bylaws. The applicant has also demonstrated they are unable to create a safe working environment at the property. As such, we submit today that the variance request be denied and the applicant fulfill their original commitment made with the completion of their project under the existing permit with no variances in a safe and professional manner.
Actually,
Thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
I think this is yours.
Okay, thank
Or
you
is that,
very
no,
much.
this is mine, sorry.
Are there any questions from the committee members? I see that the chair has returned. Perhaps, Madam Chair, you'll let me continue with this item and then you can take over with the next item that we have to deal.
I
For
completely
your
agree with you.
information, we're on item number 10.
Okay, thank you. I completely agree with you, Anne, and I will let you deal with this matter, and then I will join once you're done.
Thank you. Joe and Deborah Murphy, I believe you're next. Deborah, do you wish to go ahead and speak?
Hi, yes, I do. Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Murphy, and my husband Joe and I have lived at 261 Blantire Avenue since January 1982, and we have raised our family in this home. We are in strong opposition to the proposed build, and we have not been consulted in any kind of formal capacity. We do not believe this meets all 4 tests of the Planning Act. We do not think these variances are minor in nature. We do not think the variance requested maintains the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws as per the zoning certificate reviews dated December 3rd, 2020 and February 26th, 2021. We do not think the variance requested maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. I would reference Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 2 of the city's official plan. Physical changes to our established neighborhoods must be sensitive, gradual, and quote-unquote fit the existing physical character. A key objective of this plan is that new development respect and reinforce the general physical patterns in a neighborhood. Further to this, I would also reference Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 5 of the plan. No changes will be made through rezoning, minor variance, consent, or other public action that are out of keeping with the overall physical character of the entire neighborhood. My specific concerns for how this proposed development and how it negatively affects my home and property are as follows. The proposed second-story overhang hinders my right of access to the north side of my home. I will therefore not have the ability to clean and maintain the gutters or the chimney, nor will I be able to complete the necessary renovations on the north side of my home that began and were completed on the other 3 sides of my home last summer. If this is permitted, my house will be the only one on the entire block without this access on the north side. This consists of 15 homes in our block. Notably, it would also be the only home on the block without a peaked roof. When the adjacent driveway to the north side of our home was dug up without warning in the middle of winter, we were and are still very concerned that our home's foundation was put at risk, resulting in an increased risk of flooding in our basement. The water from recent downpours now pools against our home where the driveway used to be. With this proposed wall height to accommodate the flat roof design, we will suffer a loss of privacy and right to the enjoyment of our backyard. In our retirement years, this has become even more of a sacred space for us and our family. Lastly, this proposal is simply too overbearing and intrusive, where generous lot coverage and floor space index limits already exist. It does not keep in any way, much less in style or in scale, with the physical character of our street. We urge you to deny these requests, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Deborah. Panel members, do you have any questions of Deborah?
Through the chair, member M had to excuse herself for an urgent matter. She will be returning later. So it's so we have quorum. We have 3 committee members.
We still have 3 committee members, and that is fine. Okay. Is Marie Campbell or Vicky Glisserman available? They weren't available when I called their names a few minutes ago.
Through the chair, they still have not joined us.
They still have not joined us. Okay. All right. Then back to the applicant, Mr. Barrett. Do you wish to reply?
Yes, gladly. Thank you. I do sympathize with the neighbors and their concerns. It's based on all the letters of opposition that were written in, it does definitely seem to me that their frustrations are more rooted in construction issues and things that have happened over the past year, which unfortunately are not really a topic for the day. We're here to discuss these three variances on the table and have, whether or not they pass the four tests. I mean, I can go through some of these points that were brought up, but there are many of them that have no relation to the variances or that I lack the knowledge to comment on, being that I am simply the agent for these variances. Um, as far as attempts to communicate, as I said, I personally delivered a letter to a dozen homes up and down the street, across the street, one street over, with a brief explanation of the proposal, a link to the city's AIC website to view the plans, and my contact information, along with an offer to chat if there are any questions or concerns whatsoever. The neighbor Joe reached out to me, and I provided a bit of an explanation about how the plans were reduced, and I never heard back. And other than that, we got one letter of support from a house that backs onto the subject property. But beyond that, my letter was quite clear. My contact information was provided, and if anybody needed clarification on any points, I would have been more than happy to speak to them while we waited for this meeting to come up. Beyond that, concerns have been mentioned about the trees, but again, no forestry conditions, no trees to be injured or removed. I mean, if the neighbor has some concerns that a tree has been harmed during demolition, then by all means, I believe urban forestry should take a look. But again, that doesn't really have any impact on the variances at hand. Considering this has been referred to as a precedent-setting overbuild, I don't think that's true. It falls quite low in these spreadsheets that I've provided, showing comparable approvals in the immediate area. I mean, this is not going outside of the area or the character of the area. We're talking about a 500-meter radius around the subject property. He also mentioned that I said this was a for-profit build. I never said that. Again, irrelevant regardless. As for height, we do comply with the maximum. Maximum building height is 9 meters. I believe we clock in at 8.97. So the difference between a flat roof, it provides a little more living space on the top floor rather than a peak roof, which creates an attic type bedroom configuration. That's not exactly what the owners want. They're mentioning that we are encroaching on side lot lines and also limiting the neighbor's access to the side of their home, but there are no variances required for side yard setbacks. This proposed dwelling complies with the required setbacks, all required setbacks, in fact. So I'm not really sure how this could impede their ability to access the side of their home. I mean, I would understand if there's a side yard setback variance, but there simply isn't. Privacy concerns, I really don't see how there would be any difference between a flat roof or a peaked roof. Still comply with height. The overlook conditions would be the same. I really don't think there's much else for me to address, but I think the fact that we've worked closely with planning staff and compromised and brought this down to a level that they believe passes the four tests speaks volumes. I wish that things had gone better between the neighbors and the owner leading up to this point. It seems like there's been some animosity there. But again, we're not here to settle neighbor disputes. I wish everything went more smoothly for everybody. But to sum up,
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I ask for the committee members, I have a question of staff. And that is, staff, there has been reference to trees on the property. I know there is a tree on the public right of way that has been fenced as needing protection. If this application was approved, could we make it subject to requiring approval or requiring consultation with urban forestry?
Through the chair, that's not necessary because urban forestry has reviewed all of the applications that are currently on this agenda. They've reviewed it. They do not have any comments on it. It would be redundant.
Okay. Any comment? Gary, you can speak.
I don't really have many comments, Madam Chair. I don't know if there's any flexibility on the part of the applicant to lower the front and rear walls, which are at 8.57 meters. So
May I speak in response?
I think, Madam, I think you should let him, Madam Chair. I raised it. I was going to speak up when he just finished, but I didn't get a chance.
I apologize, sir. I was going to say I have spoken with the designer, and it is possible to reduce the front and main wall heights to 8.25 centimeters, sorry, 8.25 meters, and still meet the design goals of the owner. Didn't mean to cut you off there. I apologize.
Well, thanks for that clarification. It's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sayed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any comments, but I'm looking at the variances before the committee. In my opinion, these variances are minor, and they qualify the protest. So, yeah, that's my comments on that. I don't have any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Mr. Mohammed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I move the motion, yes, we heard about the concerns of the neighbors. Unfortunately, many of those concerns was not so closely related to the variances which are before the committee today. I also wish that the applicant could have still mitigate the issues raised by Mr. Michael, the immediate neighbor. That is very important. But still, I have to consider the variances before me, which all variance number 1, variance number 2, variance number 3 are minor. And as the applicant is willing to reduce variance number 3, the wall size from 8.67 to 8.25. With this amendment, I move the motion for approval of this application, and there is no condition attached to that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mohammed, you were there.
Madam Chair, I'm going to second the motion by member Saeed, and we've clarified that the third variance will be an 8.25 height for the front and rear walls. So I move approval.
Okay. Thank you. All in agreement?
Through the chair, that just to clarify, that's approval as amended, correct? Yeah, approval as amended. Okay, thank you.
And there are no conditions. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Barrett and Distance. I believe now moving on to the next item.
Through the chair.
Item 11, I believe, is the next item.
Through the chair. Actually, the Hannah is back. She's back from her meeting, so she can resume. She can resume the chair duties.
With great, Hannah, go ahead.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. I really appreciate your assistance to me today in chairing a few items in my absence. I appreciate that. I will now move to item number 11. Item number 11 is 55 Homestead Road. And we have Sean Tusi as the agent. All right, Sean, you're with us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sean Tusi for the record, 2323 Youngest Street, Toronto, Mary for Peter to Charlie 9. I'm the office principal at Nemo Architects Inc., representing the owner today for this application.
Thank you, Sean, for that introduction. Just bear with us for a moment. We have Mohammed Nias Amir as the neighbor in opposition. So Mohammedan hasn't connected. Okay, so Mohammed Nias Amir, if you are listening in, please try to log in. We are starting the hearing on this item. This is 55 Homestead Road, and should you wish to speak, please connect. So we're going to start with Sean. Sean, would you like to present your application, or would you like to dive right into the questions from the committee members?
With your permission, Madam Chair, I'll just do a very quick one. And then if a question comes up, I will just elaborate on just for the sake of saving time for you. I know it has been a very long day.
That's okay. No problem. Please go ahead, and you have 5 minutes.
So the application you have in front of you is a proposal for a new house. So we worked very closely with the planning department as well as the owner. And the idea was to offer something that is very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and the foretaste of the bylaw. So the proposal you have is extremely moderate comparing to what you have been reviewing and approving. And I'll just go, for example, for the floor space index that we are asking 0.46, the approvals immediately close to us, for example, for number 69 Homestead Road, which is just a couple houses up, is 59%. Let me repeat, we're asking for 36% approval. They just couple houses down is 46%. So it's extremely, I'm just giving you a sort of perspective of this house by any means is not large because the owner wanted a small. Well, they wanted what they needed, and that got us to 46. So this is extremely moderate. And then if I can ask the staff to bring the floor plans, specifically the page A03, which the other one that I think is important to mention is the building depth. That numerically may look a little bit high, but technically on the effective building, the main mass of the building, we're under 17 meter that the bylaw requires. And we only asking for variance because in some areas we are, my apology, Madam Chair. Okay, so if you look at the A03, please, if you can look at the A03. Yes, yeah. So I think if you look at the numbers at the bottom of the drawing where the toilet, basically the bathroom is, and if you can zoom there, it shows the actual building depth, the effective building depth of this house is 15.85. It's 15.85, the main mass of the house, and that's basically a meter under the bylaw. So that's like, this is not a big house by any means. Why are we asking for that number? Because of the technicality of how the zoning gets measured. We do have a breakfast area at the back of the house, which based on the zoning bylaw does count as part of the building depth, which it's not in the screen and a little bit hot. Yeah, if you go a little bit higher to the middle of the drawing. Yes, there you go, where you see the table. So that is being considered, that breakfast area, as part of the building depth. And it is only just on the ground floor. So it's really very minimal impact. It's not close to any of the property lines. And that increases the building depth a little bit. And if we can now focus on the garage area, because we are kind of exposing part of the garage roof at the front of the house, yes, in this section, the garage roof, again, technicality of how the zoning is measured, that is being considered as part of the building depth. So you add these two, where you're getting to that number, which is 18.92. Otherwise, the actual mass that really impacts the four tests and how this is below what the requirement is. The rest of them seems to be very straightforward. So if there is a question, I would be happy to answer it. That's my presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Sean. Katrine, can I have the screen back, please? Thank you. No problem. I know it's a juggling exercise. So committee members, you heard Sean with his presentation. Any questions for Sean at this time? Oh, Member Gary, please go ahead.
Yes, I just could we go over again just that rear item? I'm not sure if there's a deck there, the so-called breakfast area. Just tell me what the construction of that is.
With your, yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So yeah, we can look at that. So it's basically a one-story construction, wood frame with brick finishing. I'm not well, that's a deck. That's a wood deck, like a typical wood deck. There is no variances allocated to that. It's a typical wood deck. It's about a meter above ground, like any other typical wood deck you see in a house. And today's discussion, there is no variances. There is no request for variance for that deck. The variance we're talking about that breakfast area. I think when the staff were showing, at some point they showed the deck, and it might create a misunderstanding that. But that's completely irrelevant. Like when I'm saying breakfast area, if you look at the table, you see that kind of six chair. Yeah, that's the breakfast area. That's the projection.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And any further questions for Sean? Okay. Sean, are you aware of the community planning staff report? Have you had a chance to read it? And do you have any, there's a recommendation in the report. Do you have any question or concern with that recommendation?
Through you, Madam Chair, we're absolutely fine. I have reviewed it, and we're absolutely fine. Should the committee decide to approve the application, the decision to be tied to the design. And I do understand their concern, and we're absolutely fine with it.
And you've also reviewed the conditions of urban forestry?
Absolutely.
And you have no concerns with those as well?
No concern with those, yes.
Okay, all right. So for record, I would like to state that we have 9 letters of support that we received, and they are on file. We had a neighbor who had registered, but staff advises me that that neighbor, Muhammad Thinyas Amir at 59 Homestead Road, has not joined today. So we have to carry on with the hearing. So if there are no further questions for Sean, members of the committee, would you like to take the matter into committee? Okay, all right, okay, so we take the matter into committee now, and please, any comments internally, or would you like to put forward a motion? Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm willing to move the motion if it is okay with the rest of the committee members.
Okay, let me check. Member Gary, Member Macaulay, any comment, or can Mohammed proceed? Okay, I see, I can take that as a yes. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, the variances before the committee are minor. Therefore, I move the motion for approval of application number 11, subject to the condition of community planning reports, recommendations therein, as well as urban forestry condition number 2 and 3.
Okay, may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay? Please go ahead.
I will second that motion.
All right, thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion's carried. The application's been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry and community planning staff report recommendation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, and the members of the committee. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Through the chair, we are having an issue with WebEx, and we're looking into it more momentarily. So if we could take like a 2-minute break.
Sure. So staff has advised that there's a technical issue with WebEx, and staff would like to take a couple of minutes to rectify that. So we'll be here, but we'll just wait until we get the green signal to proceed. Thank you for your patience.
No, I'm experiencing technical difficulties again. Oh, and I 14.
Hi, hi, and your comments can be heard, I'll just mention.
Let me just see. No.
Transfer you to host.
Oh, I'm a host.
Turn everything off. Mute everything. You mute the room here. How do you tell? Hold on, don't do anything now. Don't do any.
Can I ask everybody to please mute yourself? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Can anybody hear me? Member Mohammed?
Hi, this is Gary McKay. I can hear you.
I can hear you, yes.
Is that a go? Okay, thank you. So, sorry for that inconvenience. We were experiencing technical issues and difficulties at our end, so apologies for the delay and the interruption. We will now move to item 14. Item 14 is 260 Ingleton Boulevard. And we have the application for a minor variance. And this is to redevelop the existing place of worship with a new two-story building. And there are 4 variances that are before us today. We have a staff report from community planning as well for record. So I will go through a list because there's a long list of speakers here. So Michael Donaldson, you're the agent. Are you with us, Michael?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much for your patience today. We also have Philip Wilkinson.
Yes, speaking.
Thank you. Just stay with us for a moment, please. And we have Sam Sethi.
Hi, I'm here too. I'm representing the congregation. Thank you.
And you're Sam Sethi, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. We have Desmond McLean, the neighbor who has registered to speak in opposition. Okay. So staff advises me that Desmond McLean has not signed in yet. Desmond, if you are listening in, please, and if you wish to speak, please try to sign in and connect with us. Jubin, my apologies, I can't pronounce the last name. Jubin, are you with us?
Ruben Georgievsky.
Georgievsky, all right. My apologies if I mispronounce here. But Lubin, stay.
Oh, no, not at all. You don't need to. It's a difficult name. J is silent.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jubin. Please stay with us for a moment. We will connect with you. Derek and Lynn. Okay. So Derek and Lynn, staff advisors, they're not connected. So Derek and Lynn, if you wish to speak, please try to connect again. I know it's been a long day, so you may have logged off, but if you want to speak, please try to log in again. Pamela Nazareth. Okay, again, staff advises me that Pamela is not signed in. Christian Chan,
Good afternoon. I'm present. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon. Christian, you have a busy day today, quite a few applications.
Well, I had to-
Tara Pureco.
Yes, I am here, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We will try to be as efficient as possible. We're going to start with Michael Donaldson. Michael, you have the floor. Would you like to present, or would you rather dive right into the questions?
I think I'd like to do a brief presentation first. If somebody could share the site plan drawing.
Sure, I'm going to request Katrine to share the site plan drawing. So Michael, you have 5 minutes and it's yours now. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Donaldson. I'm the principal architect at Design Workshop Architects, and we are one of two architectural practices, the other being AE7, that have been working on this scheme since 2019. The proposal before the committee today is for a replacement facility for the Sri Anandpur Satsang Ashram, which has been located at this site at 260 Angleton since 1984, and just to do the math, that is 37 years. The reason for the proposal is to replace a facility that has really just reached the end of its design lifespan and requires substantial renovations in order to continue to meet the needs of the community. And a decision was taken to build a high quality replacement facility for the community. So the proposal is a two-story structure, and we have 4 variances that have come up through the long process that we've engaged in with planning, and that started with a preliminary review back in 2019. And we are currently working on the final comments on the second round of the site plan control process. So the design has already been amended substantially in response to the community's needs and to comments from the City of Toronto. And we believe we're in a place that is very positive and are really ready to move this scheme forward. So the important thing to note about this is that the community isn't growing substantially. It is just really building a facility that meets its needs a little bit better. And the size and scale of the building are generally fairly similar to what was there, as is the location of the building within the site. And as you can see from the context plan that's up in the corner, the building is roughly of the same scale. It's a very different configuration. It's a little more rational as it is in this presentation. So we have we've been through this process with the with staff already, and have a staff report that we think reflects our conversations very well, and are considering 4 variances. So those 4 variances are 2 of which are with regards to parking. And one of the keys to this site is that we have an exception that is part of the zoning for this site that sort of just was looking to, at the time, set in what the existing conditions were when that was applied to it. So the way we've been looking at this is to look at what would normally be the zoning requirements for a site like this, and to try to work to that as much as we can. So as I said, it's only a 2-story building. For the parking, the way that we've approached this is to design the parking to suit the the Chapter 200 requirements. And that basis for institutional place of worship, that bases the parking requirements on the prayer hall. So while that would have met that requirement, the second way of calculating it would be deficient. So that would require 189.44, and that's under the citywide bylaw. So we're proposing 93 spaces, and the worst case requirement was 189. Now, we also have a report from transportation consulting validating that this is more than we need for the site. And the reality of the function of this community is that there is not a huge demand on parking most times. There's a Sunday service and 1 or 2 other events per year, and otherwise the parking is generally empty. So that's the first variance that's been requested. The second is building height, and we're requesting a variance on the building height to allow 14.26 meters. And if you could show the section of the building, that would be useful, just to illustrate what this really means in practical terms. So the height of the building is that 14.26 reflects the highest point of the building, which is the top of the skylight, and that skylight only occupies the center portion of the building, so that the visible building height is actually quite a bit lower in terms of what you see and experience from the street. So that would be to the parapet, which is something more like 11 meters. So you can see from this, if you could scroll down a little bit, there should be a section in the it's sheet 11. There we go, sheet 10, sorry. That illustrates the portion in the middle is the skylight that is the 14.26. Now, notably, that would still meet the as of right zoning for another property that didn't have the exception registered against it.
Okay,
The third,
Michael, I just want to, sorry to interrupt you, just want to let you know that your 5 minutes is up. You may want to start wrapping up,
okay,
please.
sorry, sure. I'll very quickly cover the third is for lot coverage, and again, it's the same condition where we're required to go for a variance, but it is still well below what would be as of right. And the fourth is the same parking item again, just because of the dual bylaw situation that we have. So I know that there will be some discussion in the presentations that will follow, and we'll be happy to respond to any comments that come up. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, Michael. Just want to clarify one thing, the proposed height, and you mentioned that 14.26 meters is only for a portion of the building, correct? So the majority of the building, so what is the height for the majority of the building?
To the parapet, it's around 11 meters, and I'm sorry, it's not on the plan, but for the zoning variance, we need the higher portion.
Okay, all right, no, fair enough. So it's 11 meters for the majority, whereas 10.95 is permitted. So you're shy of 0.05 there, but for the additional component, it's up to 14.26. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Now, members of the committee, any questions for Michael at this time? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you. Now, I will move on to, I don't know if Philip Wilkinson, would you be speaking on this application? Philip is the architect.
I would just like to defer my time to Sam Sethi, who is representing the congregation, and what Michael's already presented is just reiterating that.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip, for confirming that. Can we have Sam Sethi, please? All right, thank you. Sam, you're online. Would you like to speak to this?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for your time, and also to the time of the esteemed members of the committee. We, like Michael had mentioned, we've been a member of this community since 1984. That was when I was 10 years old, and we built the ashram the first time. We love being in the community. We feel that obviously this new facility is required predominantly because we've outgrown the existing facility just in terms of the infrastructure and the ceiling and everything else. And so we, on behalf of our small congregation, we would obviously appreciate the support of the committee and you, Madam Chair, in basically assisting us with our SPA application.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions for Sam at this time? I see none. Okay. And before I move on, I would just like to, for record, mention that we had with regards to the parking study, we had a memo from Transportation Services that they had no objection to the above noted variances number 3 and 4. So they have had the opportunity to review the transportation or the parking study in detail, and just want to reiterate that this has been going through a comprehensive site plan control process with community planning. So, moving along, we are going to now speak with Desmond McLean. Desmond, are you with us? Oh, Desmond's not with us. Okay. Okay, we will move to Jubin. Lubin, sorry. Lubin.
That's okay.
Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes, and you can let us know what your concerns are.
Might go out about 5 minutes. I've been sitting on the phone for almost 7.5 hours. Brain is fogged, so sorry. My choice of words are not going to be as rich and convincing probably as others, and this is my first time that I've ever done this, so please bear with me. I might shock some of the residents, some of the people from the temple, but I'm still the original owner on Ingleton Boulevard, and I was here before the temple was. On front of the temple, where there's the gate, there used to be a big sign that Milliken Park. The sign was probably about 10 feet by 8. The fonts were huge, Milliken Park. And all the people that came around here and bought houses, we bought them thinking that we're going to be in front of park. I moved in my house. The house closed, and we got possession in April of 1982. We moved in about June 1982. So I'm almost here 40 years. After a year or so, 2 years, a sign appeared, rezoning. We were shocked. We thought we were going to be on a park. Behind the sign, 50, 60 feet inside, there was a pond with nice geese and ducks and all kinds of birds. There was a farmland in there that we used to go and pick up and pay for tomatoes, cucumbers, and lettuce and stuff like that. So it's lots changed since then, and we went to the Ontario Municipal Board to challenge the rezoning because we never knew that this land somehow got sold.
So sorry, Lubin, if I may just interrupt. You've submitted a written correspondence to us, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and basically what I'm hearing from you is what we have read in your written submission. So we understand what the concerns are and sort of what the history and the background is. I would really encourage you to focus on the variances that are before the committee today, so that we can hear from you what exactly your concerns are with the variances that are before us, which are the 4 variances on the public notice.
Well, those variances, I think they play a big factor in rebuilding this temple. This temple is not that old. It's only 37 years old. In today's modern structure, old is called over 60 or 70 years old. The temple, I've never seen anybody to maintain it. And I found out about the restructuring or rebuilding of this temple in November of 2019. In November in 2019, when a survey was done, I went and knocked on the door. And I asked what's going on, and they explained to me, sir, we're going to have to get a new one because the roof is leaking, the air conditioning we don't have, it's very hot and this and that. I says, why you have to put it down and put the neighbors through the hell? Why don't you just remodel? Do you know remodeling? Everybody does that. And I said, they never said anything to me, but I said, look, sir, whatever it happens, please keep us up to date. We want to get involved. Up to now, we never heard from the owners of the temple or anybody else that was involved with the temple to get the community, the neighbors, the 8, 10 houses in front of the temple to get an input. Suddenly, we got a mail in the mail about this hearing that took the daylights out of us, and we were shivering because not too long ago, before that, we were dealing with rezoning of the small plaza. So we're going back to 1984, 1985, when we had to deal with the rezoning of the temple and the rezoning of the small plaza. So we're going again to reinventing the wheel. So those 3 variances, I think, are designed. That's my opinion, especially about the parking and the transportation. You know, from 193 cars, we're going to shrink it down to 93 just to accommodate the structure. So my concern is that we never got involved. And we got nothing against the temple, nothing against the people, but get us involved, get our input, and we're more than happy to work. I have lived in this temple before the temple was there. So to me, when I look at the drawing that is there, and which is hard to read for me, I'm not an engineer, but it's huge. I don't know if the people know how big was the temple when it was built first, but I remember 2 or 3 times being extended. There is additions in there.
Okay, Lubin, I just want to caution you, if you may want to start wrapping up your comments and sort of start concluding.
I'm just asking Madam Chair
Mm-hmm.
and the committee to take a close look, not to make the same mistake that the Scarborough Council made in 1982 or 83 when they approved the sale of this land, and instead of us enjoying the park, they brought us things on the front of us. My objection is that, and my objection is that the temple, if it's rebuilt, to be rebuilt hidden away from our yards, from our front yards, and put it in the same place where it is now, and not facing the street. And when we get out early in the morning, we face the building and not empty parking lot. Please consider that and don't make the same mistake was done, because this is the first temple that's involved and built on the front of residents, on beautiful houses. We paid premium prices at that time, and we paid premium taxes living on a nice property.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you very much. We hear you loud and clear. And rest assured, we are looking at your concerns and we have heard your concerns closely. We have to review the application based on the merits of the application and run the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and then make a decision. So I know it's not an easy task to do, but we try our best to make sure that the decisions are justified. So I'm going to now request the committee members if they have anything for Lubin. Any questions for Lubin? Your letter was very thorough, Lubin, and that gave us a great background, so appreciate that. So I see no questions for you, Lubin. So thank you for taking the time to write and come to us and speak with us. Please stay tuned, and we will move on to speaking with the next neighbor. Our next neighbor is Derek and Lynn, and they have again confirmed by staff not connected, and Pamela Nazareth has also not connected. So we have to move along, and I will now request Christian Chan. Christian, you're online, and you have 5 minutes, so please tell us what your concerns are. And we also received your letter that you had submitted to the committee for our review, so we have that on file.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, this is another opportunity to address a similar issue, albeit I'll explain how this is a little bit different from 905 Middlefield Road. So we are seeking a deferral of this application, and in this particular instance, I think it is truly warranted for the committee to consider in the alternative, and I'll explain my reasons why a refusal is required in the event of no deferral, with specific regards to the policies of the official plan, which in my opinion are not met or maintained. So I'd like to start off by saying the PPS contains policies with regards to land use compatibility under policy 1.2.6.2. I don't have that in my documents. And also in the place to grow, in the growth plan contains policies with regards to land use compatibility in policy 2.2.57C and 2.2.5.8. But the real crux of where I'm going with this is the official plan, which must conform to these upper level policies and be consistent with the provincial policy statement, as well as a decision of the planning authority must be consistent with. Are the OP policies contained in 2.2.4.5? And if I can ask Ms. Darling to go to the last page of my submission, I have the policies contained in the appendix. And so in my opinion, the redevelopment of this has not addressed the relevant policies, and we'll start with policy 2.2.4.5, if that can be brought up onto the screen, please, and I'll read directly from it. So sensitive land uses were permitted or proposed outside of and adjacent to or near employment areas, so that test is met, or within the influence area of major facilities, that test has met, should be planned to ensure that they are properly designed, buffered, and or separated as appropriate from employment areas. So we have a number of factors under policy 2.2.4.5A through E that must be addressed. They are not in the applicant's submission. So when we move to policy 2.2.4.6, this is a particular instance where this application in the influence area outside of an employment area but adjacent to and near it requires a consideration, and it says in the official plan policy shall include a compatibility and mitigation study. So if Ms. Darling, if you can go lower to the last pages, I have the policy of the OP provided for the members' review. It's in the shaded section of the OP policies. Thank you. And if you go to the next page, I'm on policy 6. So these are the requirements that are supposed to be met by this exact situation. So policy 7 also identifies what the compatibility mitigation study will do. And if you go down to policy 9, I would like to identify another factor that's important to my clients, Owens Corning. So this policy was not followed. So I have trouble understanding how this application, if policy 9A had not been addressed, how that this particular application can meet the general intent and purpose of the official plan. So we received notice that this minor variance application was applied for on the March 24th, when I was in fact looking at the AIC for 905 Middlefield Road. It was difficult to identify that this was a minor variance application because the green dot that denotes COA application on the AIC was below the blue dot that denotes the community planning application with a related site plan application. So with respect to this, these are the reasons why I am respectfully recommending the committee for a deferral to the next available hearing date so we can discuss this with the applicant. We have also had discussions with the city planning department with respect to potential agreement that could be made on the site plan application approval process. And as such, I think we should stand this application down until such time that these items can be worked out. And I'm confident that they will be, so we can resolve these issues in one hearing cycle if possible.
Thank you, Christian, for your time. I appreciate your comments. I understand that, but I'm having a little trouble here. I have a staff report from planning, and there's been an extensive site plan control process that has been undergoing or has been underway for the last 2 years. We're not here to discuss the use. The use is out of the equation. It's a permitted use. So all of those great points that you've raised with regards to compatibility and sort of conformity with the provincial policy statement and the official plan, those are in relation to, had this been a rezoning application for a use, I concur with you, absolutely. We would have to ensure that there was conformity with those policies here. But I'm looking at strictly this minor variance. What I have before me are 4 variances, 2 related to parking, 1 related to the height, and 1 related to the GFA. I'm having a difficult time in understanding how this can be a use issue. This has gone through extensive review and processing by community planning. So I'll just leave that as a comment, and perhaps when we get back to the applicant to rebut, I would like to better understand if use is an issue in this equation. I don't believe so, but I would like to get that confirmation. At this point, members of the committee, any questions for Christian? Member McKay, please go ahead.
Yes, Christian, you made reference to the morning discussion on 905 Middlefield, but that was an employment district, and we were considering the temple-like proposal there. But here we've got the zoning that allows institutional place of worship. So I'm echoing a little bit what our chair has said. You know, it doesn't seems to be that it's solidly before us on use, and now we're arguing about performance standards. Don't you agree?
Thank you, Mr. McKay, for the question. I'd just like to point us back to the policy number 5 of the official, 2.2.4.5 of the official plan, where it identifies that sensitive land uses were permitted or proposed outside of and adjacent to employment areas within the influence area should be planned to ensure. So this policy applies in this particular situation. This is what is different from 905 Middlefield Road. In fact, that this is in the influence area of my client's facility as well as adjacent to and nearby. So this would fit under the test of whether it maintains the general intent and the purpose of the official plan. And also to speak to the use, I can appreciate that this isn't a rezoning for a new use. However, this is a proposal for an expanded existing and permitted use, to which policy 2.2.4.5 also speaks to.
Thank you. I understand that, clarifying your position. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you for that question and then for that clarification. Staff, is there any comment? Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Any other question? I see none. Okay. So we are going to move to Tara. Tara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, as I stated before, Owens Corning is a Class 3 industrial facility and a major facility in the PPS and in the city's official plan. And we've talked about how many years everyone's been here. It's been around since 1978. And again, 160 full-time employees, significant contributions to the city's overall tax base. And we're very concerned about the protection, the protection of the long-term operation of the plant at this location. The city's planning staff report, and if we could just go back to those questions or those policies, they talk about the intensification or expansion. So they contemplate the existence of the use already, which is what we have here. And there is a more than doubling of the lot coverage in this application and an increase in height. So there most certainly is an intensification of the use on these lands. And policies 2.2.45 to 2.2.410 have not been addressed in the city's planning report. And as we all know, Section 45 of the Planning Act requires consideration about whether or not the application maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan. That has not been looked at here. There is nothing on the public record that considers this application within the influence area of a Class 3 industrial facility. We're going to have a new building here with new construction, and this needs to be recognized. We are requesting a deferral of the application. As with the prior application, we have had a discussion with Christian Ventresca from Community Planning. It is my understanding that this afternoon he has advised Mr. Randile that should the matter be deferred, that planning staff would be issuing a further report addressing these policies with respect to that fourth test of the planning under the Planning Act. Again, the onslaught of these applications, 905 Lump and Throat, 260 Ingleton, you got a bit of a stomach ache, and now we've got 900 Middlefield. Well, actually, 260 Ingleton came third. So that's the one where you just want to throw up. Conditions need to be imposed. We need more time. And planning staff have indicated that they would talk to us about the imposition of conditions and warning clauses through the site plan approval process, and that should the matter be deferred, a further planning report would be drafted and submitted to the committee for its consideration.
Okay, thank you, Tara. I did get confirmation from staff that an email did come in, or there was some advice from community planning that should the application be deferred, there will be an opportunity to discuss those conditions further with the applicant, but the committee has to make that decision whether they would like to defer it or make a decision on this application today. So we're going to leave it at that, but I wanted to, for record, confirm that yes, we did receive that advice through staff just now. So having said that, committee members, any questions for Tara? I see none. Thank you very much. So I'm going to now go back to Michael Donaldson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think we were also surprised to see the letter that came through on behalf of Owens Corning. We believe we've followed the process in every sense of the spirit, and we don't believe that any of the commentary provided in that letter or any of the points raised materially impact our design in any way relative to the variances that have been requested. Now, the compatibility question, at the end of the day, we're talking about a use that is already in place, will be used by the same community that exists there today. And we don't believe that there is really anything that needs to be addressed with this. So the compatibility and mitigation study was something that was discussed during our site plan control application and determined to not be necessary for exactly those reasons, because we are working towards something that is within the general intent of the official plan. The question of the concurrent applications, I don't really think is a matter for us to comment on. It is just something that's happened. And I understand that Owens Corning is seeking to defend their position there, but we view this as something that is not the right thing for this forum, and would request that we proceed with the variances that have been requested. So I think I can wrap up there, because I do think the variances are straightforward. I think that it's been clearly understood by the planning staff that we've been in discussions with. To the other neighbors that have had comments, I think that the intent of this is to build a high quality facility and to be a good neighbor, and we certainly, our experiences of the community would underline that is exactly what they'll do when they follow through on it. So I think I'll wrap up there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for your response. I have to ask this question because this was brought up, but you will, and I would sort of go from there. The question is, there's a request for deferral. Is there an appetite to defer this application to have further discussions as requested by the applicant? Oh, sorry, as requested by Christian and Tara.
No, because I don't believe that it serves our interest to do so.
Okay.
And the community feels the same way, that the likelihood that any change to the design might come out of this is virtually nothing, and we view it as something that is just intended to delay the process, and there are other forums for addressing this bigger concern. I'm sure that this committee is going to hear this over and over again over the coming years.
I agree with you, and to be honest, it is outside of our jurisdiction as well. I mean, we have to look at the variances that are before us, because we did not receive any expert advice from staff on this particular matter. That remains outside of our jurisdiction anyways. So you're right, there could be other avenues in terms of addressing those concerns. I mean, if it's a matter of including warning clauses or conditions, that could be dealt through collaboratively outside of this process. We don't need, in my opinion, it does need to be through the site plan process and the agreements and the site plan agreements and so on and so forth. So, and then, there are warning clauses that could be registered as well, but leave that to the experts to make that decision. I will now request the committee to finally confirm if there are further questions for Michael. All right, Member Macaulay. You are on mute, Member Macaulay.
Sorry. A question of clarification from Michael. You have a site plan application that you're proceeding with the city staff, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And I assume, and I'll ask you, you're a planner, would that site plan approval be approved if these variances were not approved?
I believe not. But just for the record, I'm not a planner, I'm an architect.
Okay. I believe you're correct that the site plan that is dealing with these issues of height and parking could not be approved unless the variances were approved or an alternate rezoning application. So by dealing with this item, we are moving this application forward, and I think I've gotten to the point where I should no longer be. I've got my answer. I'll speak to the item later.
Okay, thank you, Member Macaulay. All right, so is the committee ready to take the matter into committee? All right, okay. So moving along, we have the matter into committee now. Any comments or any thoughts? Yes, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Okay. The the variances that are being asked for here are a minor variance in terms of size, a very minor variance in terms of height, and a parking variance. And the parking variance really is because the existing parking requirement does not reflect the City of Toronto's new parking bylaw. And I believe that the City of Toronto's new parking bylaw would require 82 spaces, and the proposal is 93. So in terms of just looking at the variances, they appear to be appropriate variances. The use is already there. Even if we refuse the variances, it doesn't mean that the use disappears. My interest in the site plan approval was that if there is a desire to add clauses or conditions to this application, that is more appropriately dealt with through the site plan approval and, if necessary, council approval. But in terms of what the committee can do, we're addressing 3 variances. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I concur with you 100% on that, Member Macaulay. I think the inclusion of any conditions or clauses, the site plan process would be the more appropriate way or tool to deal with those issues. What we have before us as a committee are 4 variances, and that is what we have to review and run the 4 tests again. So, any further comments? Member McKay.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm taking a contrarian view. One of the tests, of course, we have to consider is whether the intent and purpose of the official plan is being maintained and is being met. And that issue has been put on the table here, and I think should be by planning staff. So my own bent or my own view on this is that I would move for deferral.
You would move for, sorry?
That's the position that I would take if I put something forward. Is I would move that the matter be deferred.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't hear you clearly.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's essentially saying that the issue of is the intent and purpose of the official plan met. That's been put out there, and I think it's an interesting question, worthy of some further reflection and thought, and report back.
So what is the motion?
Well, my motion would be to defer, Madam Chair, but since it's since the panel is discussing things amongst themselves, I just wanted to let you know how I see it and how I would likely vote.
Okay, members of the committee, any further comment? So I believe Member McKay has put forward a motion to defer the application.
All right, Madam Chair, fine. I'll put that forward.
Okay, I didn't want to put words in your mouth. I wasn't sure even the second time around if that was a comment or you were just trying to or was that a motion? So if you are ready for a motion, I would request you to formally put forward a motion.
Actually, I was just commenting at that point. Wanted to let you know that that was my thinking in terms of the panel. So I think I'd like to leave it there, and we'll see what other motions may or may not arise.
Okay, all right, thank you. Member Macaulay or Member Said, any further comment, or would you? Okay, I see none. Okay, so I'm in your hands, committee members. Who wants to proceed with a motion? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I've considered what Mr. McKay, my fellow member, and I know that he is a solicitor, so he gives a great deal of thought to some of these matters. And I'm not sure that a deferral of this matter would achieve anything. Even if it came back 2 weeks or a month's time, the committee really is not in a position to add the conditions that Owens Corning is asking for, nor is there any reason from looking at the variances to say that these uses, the use is not a question, that the performance standards that they're asking for, the coverage and the height and the parking, do not comply. with an official plan. And so I understand that there's lots of discussion. I think there will be continued discussion, certainly as the site plan application proceeds on this matter. But at this stage, I don't see any role for the Committee of Adjustment in that discussion other than to approve these applications and let the process proceed. So my recommendation is approval of these applications. I don't believe there's any, I'd have to check as to whether there's any conditions. Yes, transportation services, no objection.
Community planning.
And a staff report want to tie it into the plan. So there is a recommendation from the community staff that the application be tied in with the building plans.
So that's a motion?
So that is a motion. Recommend approval,
Okay.
subject to community planning condition.
All right. May I have a seconder, please? Can I second the motion? As a chair? No, I was just checking it with staff if I, as a chair, with this quorum, had the opportunity or the ability to put forward a motion or second, and the advice is that no, because I would create a tie. So the motion on the floor was the approval of the application, subject to the conditions of community planning staff report. The motion failed. I did not receive a seconder. I would like to have another motion. Member McKay.
Madam Chair, I would move deferral so that the question issue of whether the intended purpose of the official plan policies are being met here. So I would move deferral sine die.
Okay. May I have a seconder?
Through the chair, the deferral sine die. There needs to be a reason provided, and next steps.
Sure. Thank you for that. So that's good advice from staff, is that anytime we're recommending a deferral, the purpose of that deferral needs to be identified. So Member McKay, please go ahead.
Well, Madam Chair, yes, the purpose would be for planning staff to opine on the policies of the official plan and whether they're being met or not met by this particular minor variance application.
I think it would be, I know we have an active motion on the floor, but I would like to just clarify that purpose may not be effective. We have a planning report already that is not speaking to that particular policy. Had the planner who wrote the report, if that person had thought about it or considered that would have been in the report today. So in my opinion, if the purpose of, based on what I heard today, if the matter is to be deferred, the purpose should be to allow an opportunity for the neighbors or Owen's, the other party to consult with the applicant and community planning and see if there's any, if that matter could be addressed.
Through the chair, to address concerns raised by
Owens.
Yeah.
Corning.
Yep.
Okay. Does that make sense?
I'd be very much in support of that as a resolution as to how to deal with the matter.
Okay.
That
So the motion was to defer. I just clarified the purpose, and the committee member is fine with that purpose. Now, may I have a seconder, please? Member Saeed seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay. For record, and this is not a voting thing, for record, I want to state that I am in opposition to this motion, although it doesn't go anywhere, but for record, I wanted to state that. Now, the motion is carried and the application is deferred sine die. to allow, for the purposes of having additional discussions between the applicant, the neighbor, and city planning with regards to the matters raised regarding the noise classifications and the compatibility issue. Thank you. All right, we now move to item number 20. Is that correct? Okay, all right. So we are on item number 20. Item 20 is for 164 Sedgemount Drive. And we have Anita Prasad.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Anita, for your patience today. Please hold, please hang on. We'll be with you in a minute. We also have Bass as the owner.
Yes,
Thank you. Between Anita and Bass, who would like to speak? Both?
I need to speak.
Anita will speak, okay. All right. We have a neighbor who is registered to speak in opposition, Sarif MD Kamrul Hassan. Oh,
Through the chair, I noticed that member M has returned, so she will be available for I guess for this item and future items.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. So for those of you listening in and watching, member M is back with us, and we have just started discussing item 20. So member M, you can certainly participate in the discussion and then vote on the matter. So we were with Sarif MD Kamrul Hassan. He's there.
Yes, I am here, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your patience. Just hang in there for a moment. Satkuna Kumar.
Yes,
Thank you. Satkuna,
I'm here.
could you please confirm if you are in support or in opposition to the application?
I'm in support.
Okay, and would you be speaking today or you're here to observe?
If you need me, yes, I will be able to speak.
No, you let me know. Would you be speaking to this matter or would you just observe?
I just observe and I support. I have no objection.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you basically are confirming that you are in support of this application, but you may not be speaking. Okay, thank you very much.
If you need me, I will speak. If
Okay.
you need me for certain questions, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So, Anita, we have your application before us to construct a new one-story rear addition, and we have before us 5 variances. And would you like to present to the committee, or would you just rather address the questions if committee has any questions?
I would like to present.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, so please proceed.
Good afternoon to Madam Chair and the community. Today, as a mother of 2, I am pleading to the community to grant us the permit to finish the playroom for my disability son. He is diagnosed with heart problem. He also diagnosed with autistic. He's currently on a G-tube feed. He usually go to Aislinn Discovery for therapy. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it was closed.
Okay. You know what, Anita? That's okay. You know what? We have received your letter in writing, and we have read your situation. I personally, I'm sorry to hear this, but we will try our best to help you and assist you with your application today. So don't put yourself through this pain. We're here to support and hear you out for sure. When I requested if you would speak to your, if you wish to speak to your application, was what exactly is your application about? We understand the reason behind it, but you have 5 variances. So is there anything you would like to state for those 4 variances?
My husband will speak.
Your husband has to speak? Okay. Sure, Bass. Bass, can we have? Okay, Bass, you're online.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm online. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when we build it, I don't know about the variance much because I'm not a building engineer. So I build with my friend, and he's a contractor.
Could you speak into the
So
microphone closely, sir?
yes,
Please go ahead.
hello.
Yes, we were just getting a little fading, so just stay close to your microphone.
Okay. So the five variances, the lot coverage should be 33. I got 38, but I include in the existing the coverage set, the metal set,
The sheds, okay.
and yeah, and the number two, the setbacks. I don't know much about setbacks when we built it already,
You built it
and
already? Okay.
and the other one, the number three is 8.3, but the minimum requirement is 9.33. So I don't get it. Is the variance or not?
Okay.
And the number four is the building length, 20.6 meter.
Mm-hmm.
But supposed to get 17 meter, but we only build it on the 166 segment drive side, only the larger. Other one is all small size.
Okay, so it's only for a portion of the
So
building. I see that. Okay. Okay.
that's right, yeah.
Okay. No,
And
that's
number
good to
five
know.
is the
Mm-hmm.
building.
Mm-hmm.
And number five is the
Depth.
building depth, 90 meter.
Yeah.
The purchase would be 27. That's include that one too. The
Okay.
160 segment right side is the longer side.
Okay. Okay. So the 4 and 5 are kind of interrelated because of the nature of the variance,
Yes,
the bylaw. But
that's right,
we
yeah.
certainly see it on the plans that it's only for a portion of the building or for a portion of the rear yard. Okay. So we see that. Thank you for clarifying
That
that.
the L shape one.
Correct. Correct. No, we have all the drawings with us and we have already considered those. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. That's all.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us, members of the committee. Any questions for Bas at this time? I see none. Okay, Bas, please stay. We will now speak with the neighbor at 162 Sedge Mount and hear what his concerns are, and then we will come back to you, and then you would be able to respond to the concerns that have been raised. Okay, so just bear with us. So now we're going to move to Sarif. Sarif.
Madam Chair, committee members, and other participants, including my neighbor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your time and the opportunity to explain my position. So my name is Sarif MD Kamrul Hassan. I reside at 162 Sedgemount Drive with my family, which is located just on the west side of this property. I sent a written letter to the committee as well explaining my position, so I'll be quick here. I respect my neighbor, their kids' requirement and everything. I just want to highlight like few points here. First of all, one is related to how far is the structure from our property line. So it's essentially over my property line, and the roof is literally on the property line. That's one. Second is the way it's been built. First of all, the structure, I don't know whether it's even safety approved, because I initially thought it's all approved. And subsequently, I came to know that there was no approval taken. And I raised it personally to the city that it should be looked into. Second is, I totally agree if my neighbor's kid need a playroom. I myself have two kids, and of course, everyone needs a playroom, and they want to build a playroom. But the structure they built, the door is in their common driveway, which between myself and my neighbor. And only I have ever seen the people who are entering are the tenant of my neighbor. So I don't even know whether there is a connection inside from their house to this um, um, playroom or whatever they built. There is no connection even. I never saw their kids going to this from outside because the door is on the outside. He never talked to me about it. He never showed me what's in there. The only thing I saw is all on a sudden the structure has been built and the door is on our shared driveway. And they're like the only people go come in there is their tenants and other people linked to their tenants. So I even don't know what's the purpose of it. If it is for a playroom, I would appreciate my neighbor to leave 1.2 meter gap between the property line to their structure and have whatever they need. Plus, not to have all their tenants and all the other people flowing through my driveway where they are claiming that it should be used as their kids' playroom. If their kids' playroom, I'll be happy to help by all means.
Okay.
But that's not what it is used for at this time. And their tenants and everyone is flowing through that room.
Okay. All right. Well, no, this is good. Thank you for advising us on that. So, if I look at the variances, apart from the usage of the property, which again is something that we really can't help you with, but if I look at the list of variances, you're concerned about the setback, correct? Or are you concerned with
Yes.
other variances as well? So the setback between your property line and your neighbor's property line.
Yes. And the door in the common driveway, which is not even in this plan.
The door
So
in the,
access to
okay.
this room,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. If you look to the common driveway,
Yes.
access to this room is the common driveway and outside of their house. And all the traffic for their tenant and other people flows through there. It's not even in the exception or anything.
Okay. Yeah, there's an entrance to the,
Through you, Madam Chair, there is a proposed ground floor. So if Katrine could bring up the ground floor, we can see
yeah.
what this individual is talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was about to ask that as well. So there's a door leading into the proposed playing area on the ground floor. So that's Plan SA-06. That is correct, right there. Yeah. While I have you, Sarif, is there a fence between the two on the property line?
For the driveway, no, but outside the driveway, yes.
No, so on the lot line, is there a fence? There's no fence there.
On the lot line, there is a fence.
Yes. So when you say
Yes.
people are accessing your property or sort of trespassing, if there's a fence, then I'm not sure if how's that possible?
No, I'm talking about the common driveway.
Oh, the common driveway. Got it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because
Through you, Madam
this
Chair.
yeah, sorry.
Right there. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, if you look at the street view, there's two single driveways that are tandem together, and there is no separation of that driveway. But once you get to the rear of the driveway, there is a wooden fence that separates it once you start the backyard. But you can see from street view where the structure is starting to be constructed, and it basically adds a new entranceway from that addition onto this driveway.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. I now look at it. Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for Sarif at this time? I see none. Okay, Sarif, so thank you so much for your time today. I will now go back to Bas. Bas? All right, thank you. So
Yeah,
Bas?
speaking.
Okay, so Bas, you heard your neighbor's concerns with regards to the closeness of that driveway and then some trespassing, and he raised some questions regarding that access to the door and people accessing that area. Could you please clarify what's really happening in that setback?
No, we have a basement. Though tenant live there, so they use the door to go down, and we have at the back our rear. We have another door to go playroom
So
through our
the
kitchen door.
so the access to the basement will be through this door, through the playing area going down
Yes,
to the basement. Okay.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Sorry, did you just say that there was going to be a kitchen?
No, no, we have another kitchen door back for the playing room.
That's for the existing kitchen on the main floor, Amy, that connection.
Main floor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The existing kitchen's on the opposite side of the house. It's nowhere near the driveway.
That's
No,
what
no,
he's
no, I'm not
saying,
talking
yeah.
about driveway. The playing room.
Basically, what he's saying, Amy, is that the access to the
We have a
playroom
two-door.
from the interior of the house will be through that kitchen door, the connection.
Okay.
Okay, you heard your concern, you heard the concerns. Your neighbor wants to get some clarification.
Yeah, yeah, sir. But I'll talk to my tenant. You're not crossing a line.
Okay, all right.
So, Madam Chair, my main concern here is this is already built. And this comes back to, what I was saying previously, that not everybody is aware that certain things require a building permit. And it's very infrequent that even though, like, I personally wouldn't find this appropriate, if it's already fully constructed, it's kind of beyond our control to basically make him tear it down to provide an appropriate setback to your neighbor. I personally always struggle with these types of applications that are basically seeking forgiveness as opposed to permission. And, I worry that, we may not be told exactly how this area is really going to be utilized.
Okay, thank you for that comment. So, any questions for Bas? Because if we're ready to take the matter into committee, I would like to make sure that there are no further questions for Bas. Yes, it is an
My only
existing
question is,
building. It's an existing building.
and
It
it's
has been built. Yeah,
fully existing, right?
fully
It's not
existing.
like partially construction? Okay.
Bas, can you please confirm, is it fully constructed?
Yeah, fully constructed. Yeah.
Okay, so just so you know, Bas, when the matters come before the committee, we consider those as new developments. It's like brand new. We do not consider the fact that it is existing, right? So we're under no obligation. We're under no obligation to consider existing situation. There have been examples in the past where the applicants have had to go back and tear down things. I'm not saying this could happen today, but what I'm saying is that just for record and for all those who are listening, the committee is not obligated to consider existing conditions if it was built the way it should not have been built. So just for record, I wanted to say that. So committee members, if
We
there,
understood. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for understanding that. Member Macaulay.
I have a couple of questions of clarification for Bas. He has a driveway on this side. A neighbor to the next door, he also has a driveway. Is there a sharing of these driveways, or is it just that the driveways are side by side?
They're just paired.
No, it's side by side.
Okay, they're side by side. And then in your existing house, you have a tenant in the basement for which you've got a full secondary unit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then the proposal, or what we thought was a proposal, the building that you built in the back, is that for the tenant or is that for the owners of the front part of that house? In other words, I understood that this was for you and your family and had nothing to do with the tenant. I'm not sure if that's...
No, nothing to do with the tenant.
Okay, so you went ahead and built this out in your backyard for your own family. And now you're coming to us because you didn't have approval.
They're using the door to go in the basement.
Okay. Yeah, so Member Macaulay, you're right. They went ahead and they built it.
Yeah. Okay. That's all the clarification I needed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've given this matter quite a good hearing. I would like to take this matter into committee unless there are some pressing questions. I see none. All right, so taking the matter into committee, any comment or are we prepared to, or any clarification, or are we prepared for a motion? These are tough ones where there's an existing situation. I totally hear that. But remember, committee, we have to apply the 4 tests of variances to the variances and confirm that the tests pass. So is it minor in nature? Does it meet the intent of the official plan? Does it meet the intent of the zoning bylaw? And is it desirable for the development? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at this unique circumstances when all these, I mean, it's a fully constructed. Keeping in view that situation, I think the major problem, as Sharif was mentioning, the trespassing through the shared driveway. I think both the neighbors could talk to each other and accommodate on that because it's already there. What situation is already completed.
We can't ask that.
So keeping in view the variances, all variances 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe those are minor variances. These meet the requirements, the test for test. So I'm willing to support that.
But I think one thing to keep in mind is that community planning staff report, which limits, basically tying the plans to the decision so that it limits that extension or that reduction in the rear yard setback or that building length or the building depth to that portion only. And even the setback for that protrusion only. Okay, so I just want to make that.
Through you, Madam Chair, I personally have an issue with this application, and not just because he went forward and built without permission. I do feel that the building length and the building depth are beyond what I think is really reasonable for this lot and the surrounding area. I also heard from the neighbor that the eaves are right on the property line, and then you know how I feel about those eaves. It is inconsiderate, in my opinion, to that neighbor where it is actually impacting him. He is that much closer to his existing neighbor. There's the risk on a heavy downfall, which we've been having lots of this spring, that there is overflow onto this neighbor's property as a result of this construction that was basically built illegally. And I really truly have issue with this. And if it was me, I would like to see the applicant. I'm not saying don't have an addition here, but I'm thinking that, you really should be scaling it back, especially on the west side adjacent to your neighbor, to at least have a 0.9 meter side yard setback to pull those eaves off of the property line. In my opinion, this is like, this is, if it's truly just a play area, there is no reason why you can't pull back that main wall. There is no criticality to having that additional, couple square feet of a playroom for your son when you're looking at the impact that's happening to your neighbor.
Okay, member Amy, I totally hear you, but I just want to I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the photos in the package. This is page 875 of the package. It'll give you a good idea where the eaves are, just so that you're clear. I know it's very close to the property line.
Well, I can't tell for sure, right? If the fence is on the property line, we don't necessarily know if it was constructed in the middle or on each side. All I know is I'm going off of what that neighbor has stated and his concern, right? And his concern is that it is on the property line. So I struggle with this. Not to mention that I think that the 3.6 meters beyond the maximum permitted building length is a little bit egregious. I mean, that being said, I find the side yard setback worse, but
Okay.
it's the eaves are at the very end. See, like you can't really tell where it is with that fence, and it's especially from that angle. That the picture unfortunately didn't do much for me to tell me whether or not it's
There's
on the
one more.
property line. Who knows? It
There's
could have
one
been.
more.
It could be that fence could be on the other neighbor's property.
Okay.
It
No,
doesn't necessarily mean it's on the line.
there's another one. No, I totally see that. There's another one. That one right there. Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I know.
Looks like,
Yeah.
the wood looks like it's on the other person, it's the metal fence that's the property limit, and that looks like it's right touching the metal fence.
Okay. All
But
right.
anyways, I struggle with these because really, it's not the neighbor's fault that this guy didn't go through the due process. He should have gone through the due process.
Okay, thank you, Amy, for those thoughts. Other members, any comment? Okay, I see none. All right, let's move forward and may I have a motion, please? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move the motion for approval of item number 20, subject to the condition of community planning report recommendations, and I don't see there is any open forestry condition there.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the application subject to recommendation from community planning. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay seconds the motion.
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, I'll second that motion to approve.
Okay.
Subject to the committee.
Okay, so we have a seconder to the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, so I will use my privilege and I will break the tie, and I am in favor of this motion. So the motion is carried. The application is approved, subject to the condition. Thank you. We now move to our next item, item 23. Item 23 is for 153 Oak Ridge Drive. And do we have the owner and agent? So John Amaral and Pamela Hills. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Good
Is it-
evening.
Good evening, John. Good evening. I've never had to say good evening.
Excuse me, through the chair. We are approaching, actually, we are at 6 o'clock. I would recommend that we break for 5 minutes and then restart another YouTube stream.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, so.
Through the chair, what is the name of the YouTube stream, Katrine? On the, so people who are watching the YouTube, they'll need to log off this YouTube stream. And what is the name of the new one?
So for those viewing the YouTube stream, please log off and log into the Committee of Adjustment public hearing for the PM session for Scarborough. It's called PM session Part 2.
Through the chair, should we take
Yep.
should we take a 5-minute break?
Yes,
Okay.
so we will take a 5-minute break as advised by staff. There's a new YouTube stream that has to be initiated, and that will be titled as Committee of Adjustment Public Hearing Scarborough, March 31, 2021 PM.
Part 2.
Part 2. Perfect. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break and give everyone time to reconnect. For WebEx users, please stay there. You do not need to disconnect. Thank you.
Hi, Hannah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Just wondering about the agenda. I had set up some evening plans, and I think we still got 6 more matters that are contested.
Yes, yes, you're right.
Gary, I'm about to send an email as well to everybody, but I think that we're still live, so we should just communicate via email.
Yeah, and
Thank
this
you.
was just a point of clarification. So yes, you're right. We still have 6 more items. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.